Our power is in our voice. Our power, it's in our thoughts. Our power is in our actions. Our power, it's already innate in who we are. We are the earth. We are the sky. We are the trees. We are our ancestors. We are the future generations. We are all that is.
To the final day, the final segment of the People's Reset 2026. Make some noise if you're in the room. Thank you, everybody at home, for joining us again. We appreciate you. This is the final segment, the final day. I can't believe it. 5 days go by so fast, and I lost my voice again. I thought I was going to be better at it this year, but I screamed too much last night, having fun, being crazy and dancing with lots of you. So this is going to be the closing session. As I said, we're focused on building free and conscious communities, and these next 4 speakers are going to be as diverse as the morning speakers and as the rest of the week. And I just want to make a couple notes before we get into that. First, I really want to invite everybody here if you choose to, but really those at home, we just want to make a special appeal to those at home from the 12 plus countries who've been tuning in. If you appreciate what you're seeing and you enjoy watching this stream completely for free, we encourage you to donate to the People's Reset movement at thepeoplesreset.org/donate, because really it's your support, and all the sponsors that we've been discussing over the week and the vendors. That's what makes this happen. Myself and Miriam work on this event for 6 months in advance. We started back in June, and we've just been getting busier and busier and busier until this very moment. And it's all a labor of love that we do love, and we love seeing the moments, of all of you guys enjoying yourselves, and we want to keep doing that, and we want to be able to keep making the stream for free. No disrespect to any other events, but I think this information is important enough to make it free and not charge people to have to watch at home. So we've never charged since 2020. We also put out every single talk. I edit them myself, as annoying and I don't like it. So if you want to donate, I can hire an editor. But I've literally edited every single talk that has taken place on the People's Reset stage from the very first one in January 2021 till this past year. All the events are available for free on our Odyssey channel. We have them into nice, neat playlist organized by talk, and you can go through there. And it's over 300 hours worth of solutions-focused talks in all these 5 themes. So if you're ever just, bored, and instead of watching Netflix or listening to another video telling you how bad the world is, maybe visit the People's Reset Odyssey channel at our website, go pick a talk and dive in and learn about some new ideas. But I'm really proud of that we have that. And if you value that and you're getting use from this and you're going to watch the videos and share them with your friends, please do consider donating, guys. We appreciate that so much. Thank you. And now we want to highlight some more activities. Again, why you need to be here next year in person. This is the kids' activities, not even just the kids. There's been adults in there too. Kenny did a workshop with fruit. This is the outside area for those who, again, aren't in person. Look at those dirty feet. Let's go back to those feet real quick. Wow. Okay, I don't know if that's the best advertisement for coming in person, but no, we love you. This is the outdoor space where people are getting their bodies worked on and some deep stuff going on. This green space here, this is one of the things that makes some noise if you enjoy that green space, hanging out there with everybody, having conversations, the workshops. We realize and recognize that that's a very big part of this event, and we are always going to make sure that wherever we move this event, there will be a green space for us to gather outside. And this is, of course, the concerts that we had last night. We had one. Alex Zeck starting things off. Give a shout out to Alec and his first DJ set ever right here at the People's Reset. He didn't even do it at his own event. He did it here instead. So that's cool. And everybody was just jamming out. Grant Presence getting down. These are some great pictures from the We Are Not Zombies crew. Make some noise for them. Look at these. That's awesome. I want that one. Go back. Hold on. That dude looked cool. Let's go. This guy looks cool. Wow. I want one of those. All right. Yes. Thank you guys for coming out and jamming with us, having a good time. It was an awesome concert last night. So we're so grateful to everybody who gets to experience that in person. I've heard from so many of you over the last 5 days, but even just the last few hours, how special these moments on the dance floor have been. just being able to experience that. Or even if you've been sitting back and not dancing, watching and seeing people just be free and happy and joyful. I think that's been really healing for a lot of us. So hope you guys will come next year and join us in person. We want to see you guys in 2027. And final announcement, speaking of 2027, we are going to have an event next year. We're going to slightly move the time period. We were considering doing things in the summer because it is a beautiful summer out here. It is rainy season, so it rains every day for a couple of hours. It's not a huge thing, but all the flowers are in bloom and everything's nice and even more fruit and everything like that. And also Miriam wanted to, and we will eventually, we'll find a way to do this. Maybe we do a smaller event in the summer. Partner with some local groups, including one that does mass tree planting during the rainy season. You know, you can't plant during dry season, but we thought, wouldn't it be awesome if we get hundreds of people here from around the world and we all go out and do some mass tree planting and really contribute to Morelia in that way? What do you guys think about that? So that's one benefit to, you guys coming to visit us again in the summer. But we want to continue to do, we know a lot of you guys are trying to get the heck away from snow, and who came here to get away from winter, at least was partially motivated by that, right? Many of you, and I understand that. So we want to be able to maintain that. We're going to be moving the People's Reset 2027 to the first week or the last week of February, first week of March. Miriam's birthday is at the end of February, so it's kind of like a birthday gift for her, you guys to come hang out. But we will be doing it next year. And for the next 2 days, the tickets are already on sale. If you know you want to come back, the tickets are on sale for 108 USD. So if you're at home and you're watching, you want to come from now to whatever time it is, 2 days from now, the tickets are available for $108. After that, they're going to go up slightly, and then we're going to cut the sales till the summer. But if you want to come back next year, guys, you want to get our best price, go to thepeoplesreset.org/tickets, and you can get them now for late February, early March 2027. All right. And we hope you will come back. I'm done talking because I'm literally going to lose this before the day is over. Okay. All right. I have the pleasure of bringing up another member of the Conscious Agora Eco Village as a speaker on the People's Reset stage. Maybe eventually we'll get every single one of you on this stage here to share your ideas. But this is going to be a great talk for those of you who are thinking about community. When we use that word community, we mean different things. In the terms of the Conscious Agora, we are talking about community living on land, things like that. But for many of us, that's just the people you're connected to in the city or in the suburb that you live. For some people, it's the people you live with. I lived in an activist space for several years. I know what that's like. Wendy Bood is going to talk to us all about community and her views on how we might want to embrace community and maybe rethink some of the ways we look at community. Please give her a warm welcome to the People's Reset stage.
Check. You guys hear me? Through this or through this? Cold hand. Check. There we go. All right. Hello, Morelia. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me here today. I know it's the last day. Everyone's really speakered. Come back, fill me up again.
Bueno.
Hello. Sorry for the slight delay. All right, there we go. Okay, let's get back to this. So part of being a conscious community is being a healthy community. And I want to talk today about a very long, arduous health journey that I took, but a happy ending at the end. So when I was 17, I was a really active teenager. I was in college studying communication and film arts. I was in drama club all through high school. I was doing plays, talent shows, all kinds of things. And my friends and I were super active. We used to go roller skating. We were biking, hiking, swimming. I used to walk to school. So we were actually playing outside. That's what you did before you had a cell phone. So very, very active. But that summer, something began to change. I would wake up in the morning and have like sore fingers, and we'd go to the park to do cartwheels and stuff, and I couldn't flip onto my hands like I used to. I was starting to have like weakness. And so my mother took me to the Montreal Children's Hospital, which was at the time where you went before you were 18. And it was a very well-renowned allopathic hospital in Montreal. And so my doctors, the doctors did a whole bunch of tests. They did x-rays, they did blood tests, they did a couple of other diagnostic tests. And they came back, and what I was given a name for what was happening in my body, and they gave me this diagnosis of juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And at 17, very, very active teenager, you could imagine it was a very devastating diagnosis for me. They told me very matter-of-factly that medication would be a lifelong companion, and that if I didn't take it, that my hands would be crippled and gnarled by the time I was 50 or sooner. I was at the hospital for a long time that day, and eventually a whole bunch of immunologists came in, and they told my mother that they'd have to rerun my blood test because the original test came back unusual. So after another couple of hours, they came back in the room and they told my mother that I had something else going on. My body wasn't making enough white blood cells. They called it hypogammaglobulinemia, which is really basically just a label, meaning my body wasn't making enough white blood cells. So I was deficient. Today it's known as common variable immunodeficiency or leukopenia. They told my mother it was rare, maybe 1,000 cases in Canada at that time. So in one single day, I didn't get one diagnosis, I got two. And that second diagnosis set me on this long and very overwhelming journey in learning how to deal with these two chronic illnesses at such a young age. And just like that, my life kind of split into a before and an after. Later in my journey, I came to realize, though, that I was a pretty sickly child. I was subjected to the standard childhood vaccines when I was a kid, and in the 60s, that meant 18 shots before the time I was in grade 6. And one of them, I think it was the MMR vaccine, it didn't leave a mark on my arm, so my mother immunized me twice. And throughout my research for this book that I'm writing, especially in the wake of COVID as well, I learned how dangerous it could be to A, vaccine a child at all, and two, how important it is never to administer back-to-back immunizations, because the doing so can amplify the side effects, especially in a developing immune system. So from an early age, I was plagued with infections. I had recurrent throat infections, bronchitis, pneumonia, and one day, I think I was about 3.5, my mom took me back to the hospital because my tonsils were really swollen and enlarged. If you're not familiar with the role of tonsils in your health, they are the first line of defense against pathogens entering into your mouth from food or from the environment. So they're a very important part of the immune system. But my parents didn't know any better, and they believed the doctors, and so my tonsils were removed. Throughout my life, I seemed to catch everything: viral infections, bronchitis, shingles, colds, flus, and of course these constant throat infections. Sometimes I'd be on antibiotics a few times a year, and I also healed far more slowly than the average healthy person, sometimes taking 3 or 4 weeks to get over a cold. Yes, so also from the age of 17, of course, I was put on all kinds of anti-inflammatory drugs for the arthritis pain. My wrists, my hands, all the joints in my fingers were very swollen. And the hardest thing was at night trying to find a comfortable position for sleeping. I would be like this, any way that I could to not, not to have pain. I tried wrist splints, I tried all kinds of things, but nothing seemed to work. Over the years, I was offered one treatment after another, experimental gold salt injections. I tried anti-malarial drugs. I tried every anti-inflammatory on the market. And I wasn't really, I realized much later that I wasn't addressing any root cause. I was just kind of masking symptoms, going on these drugs over and over again. And at about age 23, I contracted Giardia, which is a parasite. You get this from well water. But because of my immune deficiency, I got really sick. I lost 20 pounds in 2 weeks. And the doctors were very, very worried about me and put me on these 3 rounds of antibiotics, one kind that had to be shipped in from the US because they couldn't deal with it in Canada, apparently. So within about a year or so, this weight of being sick all the time, having gone to the doctors all the time, being on the medications, started to weigh on me heavily, like psychologically and emotionally, and I began to get severely depressed. And so a psychiatrist was added to my medical team and a psychologist for talk therapy. I had moved to the country this time with my husband. I got married very young, too young. And we had some animals and a big garden, and I found this remote job. I was painting these decoy ducks. The carvers would carve them and then have them cast. So I'd bring about 50 or 60 ducks back home to the farm to paint. But I was having a hard time even holding the brush because I had to do very small details. So I had to take a lot of breaks during the day, and I was just getting depressed, because of all of this struggle with these illnesses. But one of the things I did to combat the depression was that I started to bake. My grandmother, Evelyn, was a big baker, and she taught me how to bake, and she was super adept at it. She didn't use any recipes. She didn't use measuring cups. It was all by eye. Everything was automatic to her. So I loved baking. I had this big, beautiful country kitchen, and it was my thing. I used to bake muffins and cakes and cookies, and I would soothe myself and soothe my depression with these baked goods. I rationalized to myself that it was the healthiest baking that you could do. I used whole wheat flour, I used brown sugar, I used farm fresh eggs. So I thought I was doing a good thing. It was, at that time, I had no idea what gluten was or what it did to the body, and I'm going to come back to that later. But the depression continued throughout my 20s, the worst part being around age 26. I wouldn't be able to get out of bed for a week. I wasn't showering. This was before the internet and cell phones, and we were kind of remote in the country, and my husband had no idea what to do with me. But even painting and getting motivated to paint my ducks was hard, and I loved painting. I loved my job, so it was very challenging. Fast forward, the depression lifted at about age 28 after some psychotherapy with an ex-nurse and the continued medications, most notably Prozac. If you guys don't know about Prozac, it can cause suicidal ideation, which is a great thing to give to somebody who's depressed. But anyway, it worked for me temporarily. But the marriage broke up. We ended up moving back to the city, and each of us went our separate ways, and that was okay. But while I was waiting for my divorce to come final, some girlfriends invited me up to the cottage for the weekend. They thought it would cheer me up, and I really didn't want to go, but I decided to go anyway. And by surprise, I actually met a really amazing guy that weekend, and we ended up being together for 5 years and engaged for the last year. And for the first time, I kind of felt happy again. I felt like there was, like my energy had returned, and my life was kind of getting back on track. We lived in the city of Montreal, and we had this great apartment, and we were super big music lovers. So we went to a lot of concerts, we had a lot of parties, and I just felt like, wow, my life is kind of getting back to normal. And I was still living with the pain, but I believed I was managing the pain, with the drugs and the medication. And by this time, I'd added marijuana to my apothecary because it was really good for pain relief and numbing some of the depression that I was feeling. But I was still getting sick. At around age 33, my doctors became concerned because the recurrent throat infections were causing scar tissue to build up on my throat, and it was narrowing my passage. And they were really afraid that it would get worse. So they offered me something called IVIG therapy, which is intravenous immunoglobulin therapy. And so I would receive donated white blood cells through an intravenous line infused into me slowly over the course. It took about 4 hours. Once a month, I would miss half a day's work. I would go into the immunology department. They had these lovely lazy boys, and I would meet all these nurses who I got to know very, very well. And they'd settle me in, and I would just sit there, and it would take about 4 hours to infuse. And I would get a chance to catch up on reading and writing, and I actually wrote letters, real letters back then. This was before smartphones or computers and things like that. And in this strange way, I kind of looked forward to this little tiny slice of time. I used to joke to people, oh, I was going to my spa day, you know, because I could be away from the work and the telephone and clients calling me and things like that. So, you know, and I did that. I managed my immune deficiency for 20 years. 20 years of infusions every month. And I was still getting sick. I'd even planned my vacations around these treatments and everything. The doctors told me that these donated white blood cells were supposed to give me this boost and give me like this normal immune system, but didn't seem to be working. And of course, after so many years of all the medications, I would get stomach ulcers, I would get stomach infections, and you know, all kinds of things from the anti-inflammatories. Eventually, I learned how to do the infusions myself. I was trained by a nurse, and but this time it was subcutaneous because I couldn't do it intravenously at home. So a nurse trained me how to do it, and I would go to the blood bank. I would pick up enough for maybe 2 months of infusions, and I would get this huge box of supplies delivered from the pharmaceutical company. It would be syringes and gauze and tubing and needles, and you know, they gave me this pump, this spring-fed pump, and I would fill it up and kind of strap on myself, and I could go about my, you know, my household chores or cooking or take care of my son, things like that. And so I did that for about 6 years, and I was still getting sick. The antibiotics too that I was on, of course, they were starting to really affect my stomach and my gut microbiome, and I didn't realize at the time how important that was. And you know, it took me a long time to realize how I could rebuild that. You know, I also was never told how destructive antibiotics were. They just kept giving them to me like it was aspirin, you know, or over-the-counter medication. And this was, of course, before the internet. I didn't do any, you know, any research. I believed my doctors, right? They'd been taking care of me since I was a teenager, so I just went ahead and did it. And every time I would have something, a side effect from the medication or a side effect from whatever, they, of course, give me another drug. The treatments were also super expensive. They never told me how much it cost. I only found out decades later when I started to do research for this book. In Canada, we have a healthcare system that's socialist. It's paid for by our tax dollars. So I didn't have any, you know, costs out of pocket, but I was certainly a big burden on the system. And then at 40 years old, I got pregnant, and something truly wonderful happened. The moment I found out, of course, I went off everything, all my anti-inflammatories, all the antidepressants, all the over-counter medications like Tylenol, things like that. I went off everything. And for the first time since I was 17, I was drug-free. And I was living completely without medication. And I didn't know how my body would respond, but miraculously, I didn't have a lot of pain while I was pregnant. And the doctors would explain it to me, saying that my immune system had kind of shifted, and it went to kind of protect the fetus instead of attacking my own cells and my own joints, which is what they told me autoimmune disease, you know, did. It kind of turned its attention away from me. So for a brief time, I was given a reprieve, but I still remember what the doctor said to me very casually. They said, "Don't worry, the pain will come back." So I continued with my infusions right through my pregnancy, and when my son Griffin was born, I had to have the birth induced, and then I had to have a cesarean section. I didn't have Brenda there to help me, which would have been amazing. I just went along with what they suggested. And while I was recovering, my platelets got really low, dangerously low, and they had called in some blood for me in case I needed an infusion. They thought that I might spontaneously hemorrhage. So that was really scary, and I was super exhausted after 29 hours of labor. And I was in the hospital for about a week until my blood stabilized again, and then they sent me off. And because I was breastfeeding my son, I didn't go back on any medications, and the pain was kind of not as bad. I could kind of manage it while I was breastfeeding, so I was super happy about that. But soon after I stopped breastfeeding, I started to wake up in the morning with the swelling in my fingers again, and I was like, ah. So I went back to my doctor, and I very reluctantly said, I think I need to go back on some medications. So what he prescribed me was a drug, a Pfizer drug called Vioxx. I don't know if any of you have heard of that, but it's a drug that was taken off the market because it killed 50 people with a heart attack. Heart attacks. Of course, I didn't know this at the time. They didn't tell me, of course. They just give you the drugs and the little pamphlet to look at, and I didn't look at it because I was terrified. So I just kind of put on my blinders. And I feel like had I really listened to my intuition back then, something should have told me not to take it. But what I didn't know yeah, was that, of course, it was very, very dangerous drug, and pharmaceutical industries have this like a level, certain amount of people can die or are expendable before they take this drug off the market. So luckily, I wasn't in, that group, and I took the drug for about a year, but after a while, it wasn't being very effective. So they gave me something else. I do remember the doctors telling me, though, when they gave me the drug, that it was very well tolerated. That was like their exact words. Oh no, it's very well tolerated. Even though it gave me stomach ulcers and depression and all these things. But I believed my doctors because they'd been taking care of me for so long. So the pain subsided a little bit, but I guess maybe about a year later, it wasn't working anymore. I was getting depression again, coming back, and I started to be really uncomfortable with also taking the infusions. I'd go to the hospital, and the nurses would have a hard time finding my veins because they were very small. They said they were shy. Scared probably. So, it was starting to be, it just started to bother me. There were times where I just felt like ripping out the IV, it started to get to me mentally. And even when I started to do it at home, when I was trained at home to do it, it was like an uncomfortable feeling that was kind of always with me. And so living with this illness, all these illnesses, was beginning to wear on me. And I started to have this little inkling that maybe there was something else. Maybe I was missing a piece of the puzzle. And for the first time, I kind of began to wonder if the doctors didn't have all the answers. Maybe there was something I was missing. Maybe I needed a second opinion. And so I put my attention on searching for other options. I started to investigate. I became like a medical detective. I started to read all my own medical reports, and I started to do a really deep dive on immunology, especially. I thought, well, if my body can make some white blood cells, there must be something I can do to make it make more. What was my body missing that I wasn't making, enough white blood cells? So I really started to do a lot of investigating. And then a friend of mine became a psychedelic integration coach. And she suggested that we do a journey together. She told me that it had profound healing effects. And I had never tried psychedelics, only once with a bunch of friends, and we just laughed all night. It was just a fun thing. But they weren't really a part of my world. And still, she kind of encouraged me, it took her like a few months, but she wanted me to explore what we call a therapeutic dose, which is 3.5 grams of psilocybin mushrooms. So we decided to do it. We went out to the countryside, her and another girlfriend of mine, and we prepared everything ceremonially, the mushrooms, the space, our intention. And my friend helped dissolve any fear that I had, and I felt really actually very excited. And what we were gifted with was super extraordinary. It was eye-opening, it was heart-opening, it was soul-opening. I felt very deeply connected to nature, to my psychonaut friends. And it was springtime in Canada, and the trees were just blossoming, and the moss was impossibly green, and it was misty, and everything felt alive. And I just felt so incredible. We stood near this swamp, and it was filled with frogs, and the sound that came off of it was like this orchestra. And we were like, I was just in awe of this whole experience. And I felt very connected to the earth, to something vast and loving in the universe. And I felt like this love was, pouring forth out of me. And afterwards, I imagined thinking like, why have I not tried this before? Why has not anyone ever told me about this? And I felt as though I'd been away at some kind of spiritual spa. I was lighter, I was calmer, I felt more restored than I had in a very, very long time. So after that experience, I started to delve deeply into psychedelics as a healing modality. I started to read, I started to watch films. I learned about many, many people who'd had, healing experiences and transformational experiences. And this psychedelic integration coach was telling me, urging me to take the training. She kept saying, Wendy, you're going to love this, you got to take this course. And at the time, I was already working as a life coach. I'd studied psychology and neuroscience at the Center for Applied Neuroscience in Toronto. So she knew I had a little bit of ability and the desire to do it. And she kept telling me, you're just going to love this. And she really spoke often about this beautiful community that formed around with the coaches. And there was continuing workshops and trainings, even beyond our certification. But it didn't happen. I waited a whole other year, went by, and I had another psychedelic experience with another friend of mine. And we felt like we were both ready for what was called the hero's dose, which is 5 grams of psilocybin mushroom. And we had a sitter present. Again, we were very well prepared. We meditated with deep intention. We prepared everything. We put the mushroom in a tea, which is a very gentle way, and you can kind of gauge how much you're taking, as you're doing it. So it was beautiful. And This time with this increased dosage, I had a very different experience. I was blessed with one of the most sacred experience of my life. I dissolved into the vastness, merging with the collective consciousness of all that is, of what I call source. It was a super divine connection. It was that God experience. It was profoundly life transforming. It was a true death and rebirth. And I felt as if I'd been returned to my true essence. The journey was infused with joy and bliss and this deep sense of connection. And it was utterly life affirming. The medicine opened up this channel, and what came through, we call these things downloads, but it felt like wisdom was like gently put into my being, and like bypassing the mind entirely. It was an incredible experience. But one of the most profound things that happened during that journey was something kind of beyond what I was experiencing. And what it was I felt like I had X-ray vision. So a week before, I had banged my thumb with a hammer, and it was all black and blue. And I was kind of marveling at my hands on the mushroom. And I was looking, and it was like I could kind of see right through my bones, and everything was like white. It was glowing. It was luminous. And in that moment, I kind of had this kind of lightning bolt, and I was looking. I'm like, wait, there's no damage. There's no arthritis. There was no disease. I felt just wholeness. And with that knowing came the certainty that I was healed. And I felt my ancestors come through to me that day too. And this message was super strong. You need to work with this medicine. Came through several times really strong. So before I ended my day even, I was on the internet going back to this course description of that psychedelic integration coaching program. It's called Being True to You. And I called them up. And so that was it. I surrendered. I jumped in with both feet, not knowing how much it would actually transform my life. But I trusted the universe, and I followed my intuition, and I immersed myself in this psychedelic training. And as I began the course, I decided that it was time for me to get my physical and my mental health in order at last. I feel like I was going to treat myself like my first client. And at the same time, I started a daily meditation practice. I promised myself that I would meditate for 1 year, and that turned into 2 years, and that turned into 5 years. And I meditated every single day for 5 years without fail. And what that did for me was that it kind of instilled into me this profound feeling of like, I need to take care of myself. It was like what I deserved to give myself. And so, so this commitment to myself and this well-being was really strong at that point. And what I started to do also was I started to disconnect the thought that I had of myself being sick. So when people would come up to me and they'd known me for years, they knew I had arthritis for years, and they'd say, "Wendy, how's it going? How are your hands?" And I'd go, "Oh, they're great. How's your daughter?" And I just completely, I wasn't the Wendy who was sick anymore. I just did not connect myself with that person. And changing your mindset is a very important part of healing. So I started to get my body clean. I got off, some of my medications. I really wanted to get them out of my blood, out of my tissues. And I started cleaning up my diet, and I instinctively gave up sugar and carbs, and I began to do a whole bunch of detoxification protocols. And I started from the bottom up with colon hydrotherapy. This is because you want to prepare the detoxification pathways for when you do your other cleanses. You want everything to kind of flow through. So one of the things I did, though, was I did a spleen cleanse. I'd remembered my doctors, every time I went in for a checkup, they would do a palpation test, and my spleen was swollen, and it was often painful. And my doctors told me that it was part of the disease, that this autoimmune disease would cause this, but they didn't say anything else. And they also told me too, make sure you don't play any like rough sports, because if you get checked, if your spleen bursts, you could die instantly. It's like, wow, great, thanks for that. Living my life in fear of falling or being hit, whatever. It was just one more thing, right, that I had to deal with. But what I learned about the spleen and what it does, it shocked me, and it shocked me that I never heard any of this from any of my doctors, none of my immunologists. The spleen houses and activates your white blood cells, especially your lymphocytes, your B cells, your T cells, and your macrophages. It's like super important. And when your spleen function is impaired because of heavy metals, susceptibility to infections increases because the immune surveillance of the blood is reduced. Heavy metals like mercury, lead, cadmium, and arsenic are actually immunotoxic. They inhibit lymphocyte signaling. The macrophages become less efficient at engulfing pathogens. Antibody production may be blunted or misdirected. You may have frequent or lingering infections. You may have poor response to viruses. You may have immune confusion, as in autoimmune disease. That was me, of course. I was like the poster girl for this. And I realized that every vaccine I'd ever taken was also filled with heavy metals. So I did a heavy metal detox immediately. And lo and behold, my spleen got better. It wasn't swollen anymore. It wasn't painful. It went back to normal size. I've never had an issue with my spleen again. I thought, the doctors were wrong about that. I could heal my spleen. So I started noticing improvements in my health. I was starting to have more energy, starting to have a little less pain. And then I started to study a whole bunch of other health modalities. I went to see an iridologist because I learned that the results can really tell you a lot about your body's systems, especially the immune system. It shows relative inherent strengths and weaknesses, and also over or under functioning of your body systems. And the iridologist did not know anything about me. She didn't know anything about my medical history. And what showed up in the diagnostic of the results was immunological dysfunction, joint issues, leaky gut, and a sluggish lymphatic system. She was picking up on all of these things that were issues for me. So I continued my detox in earnest. I also went to see some other health practitioners. I went to see a naturopath, and she did a red blood cell microscopy, or live red blood cell microscopy. And the results were frightening. I was shocked. My blood was thick, it was sticky, it had rouleau formation. My white blood cells were few and far between. They were fragmented, they were helmeted, and they were unmoving. I had serious vitamin mineral deficiencies, omega-3 deficiencies, signs of bacteria in my blood. And this test, they use the test, they have a scoring system from 0 to no issues to 5 being severe imbalance. And I had mostly 3s, 4s, 5s all across the board. So it was really scary. And this was a huge wake-up call for me and a motivator to go further and to learn more. So the very next day, I started this regimen of supplements so I could rebalance and get my vitamin and mineral deficiencies fixed. She also started me on far infrared saunas. And I was the type of person that never sweats, even when I did exercise. And for the first month or so, I was in these far infrared sauna and not sweating at all. I thought, because I was slim and I did yoga, that I was quote unquote healthy or in shape and fit, but I wasn't doing anything to move, to move my lymph and to clean myself and detox myself naturally. But after 6 months of saunas, I was sweating from every pore in my body. I was like, yes, exactly what I wanted. Also started to do cold plunges, which was supercharges your energy. It increases your blood flow and your lymph and has many other health benefits. If you have never tried cold plunges, I highly recommend it. I also started jumping on a rebounder because I realized that also moves your lymph and helps you detox. So all of these things together was really wonderful. The psychedelic training continued and was super fascinating. And the first module was aimed at addiction recovery because psychedelics are fantastic for anyone with some addiction problems. And the founder actually created this course because of her own alcohol abuse problem. And she turned this whole healing journey of herself into this company that trained coaches to also help other people with psychedelics. But in the 7th class, one of the senior coaches, Jen Bruce, gave a presentation on detoxification and nutrition. And I was like, wow, this timing is like perfect. So she'd been trained in functional nutrition, something that I had never even heard of before. I genuinely believed I ate well. I'd been a vegetarian since the age of 27. I used to bake my own, goods. I loved being in the kitchen. I prided myself on on cooking real food. In my mind, my diet wasn't just good, it was healthy, it was wholesome. But then she taught us something that would quietly unravel everything I thought about my diet. She explained that there was 3 foods at the core of chronic inflammation and are implicated in the root cause of most chronic illnesses. And that was gluten, sugar, and dairy products. And these 3 foods weren't a small part of my diet. They were the foundation of it. I ate these foods every day for decades. And that was my aha moment. For the first time, I understood that my entire life I'd unknowingly been consuming foods that kept my body in this constant state of assault. What I thought was nourishment had actually been undermining my health all along. And so the story of my body, my immune deficiency, the arthritis, it finally made sense. All these bells went off. I had this huge epiphany. No wonder I was sick. No wonder I was in pain for so long. My body wasn't betraying me. It had been responding intelligently to decades of this relentless inflammation. I just wasn't listening. So that's when I started to get angry, very angry. I was so mad and started to question the medical system and my doctors. I was so mad at them. Why didn't they ask me about my diet? Why don't they know anything about nutrition? I was like so livid. And of course, as soon as I learned that, I did an elimination diet. I started the very next day. I stopped eating sugar. I stopped eating dairy products. I stopped eating gluten. And I'm telling you, honestly, this was very challenging. I had to learn, about new foods. I had to learn how to nourish myself all over again. I had to find new ways, to cook. But what gave me motivation was that in 3 weeks, I started to feel better. I had no pain. I had no swelling getting up in the morning. My depression lifted. I had more energy. And it was like, I felt amazing. I felt like a whole new person. I started to wean myself off the infusions. Instead of every week, I did them every 2 weeks. Then I did them every 3 weeks. And I was scared. This was at the beginning of COVID, and I did not wear a mask. So I'm thinking that's, it's probably the worst time in the world to go off these infusions. But I had some kind of intuition that kind of pushed me on, that prodded me on. And so, so I got off all of that. And my doctor, actually, I was on the phone with him, and he screamed at me, "You'll always have CVID," which is common variable immunodeficiency. And he hung up the phone on me. He was so angry that I was giving up this treatment. He says, he was telling me, warning me about how sick I was about to become. He goes, "You better get yourself a good doctor and, get a permanent antibiotic prescription because you're going to need them." It was awful. Yeah. Because of course, from the beginning of when I started these treatments, he told me that I would be on them for life, right? I did them through my pregnancy and through when I worked, and it was going to be my lifelong companion, is what he said. Anyway, after the end of that detox and nutrition class, Jen gave this 8-week, crash course in functional nutrition. And of course, I was there. I was like a kid in a candy store. I couldn't get enough. And I learned about the program that she had taken, and I was so inspired. I said, "This is it. This is my niche in psychedelic coaching. It's helping people with food addiction and sugar addiction." And I realized how many people are trapped in these addictions, and how many people like me who were completely unaware that their chronic illnesses were based in this terrible diet. So I felt this deep sense of alignment, as though I kind of stepped fully into my path. And I continued my personal work with psychedelics. And again, I received, tons of confirmations from within and from without that this was what I was meant to do. So I learned a lot from Jen. I investigated her online training, and it was a $7,000 course, but they had a payment plan. I was a single parent. I was running my own business. So it took me quite a while to actually go through this course. My son was a teenager at the time. We had just moved from Montreal to Ottawa, which is from one province to the other, about 2 hours apart. COVID was just beginning, and my father just died. So I had a lot on my plate at the time. And it took me a whole second year to finish the program. It was mostly physiology and anatomy, telling you about how food affects all your different body systems. But it was a life-transforming experience. I've always been a journal writer since the age of 13. I've been writing, tons of journals. And so I started to journal my adventure, my getting off my medications and all the different modalities I was trying and all the psychedelic journeys, and now my functional nutrition journey. So that's the thing. Now I want to help people heal, because the things that I learned, especially about gluten, are extremely valuable and could actually prevent serious disease. So I want to just talk about gluten for a little bit, because we've all been fooled by one of the largest industries in the world, the food industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it regulates and subsidizes all the wheat production, like 99% of the world. So I want to tell you about a few things I learned about wheat and gluten from Dr. William Davis. He's the author who wrote Wheat Belly. Highly recommend the book. And much of this kind of little section comes from him. So there's many problems with wheat, and it's not just gluten. So I'm just going to tell you a few of them. So there's the gliadin protein. This is a potent appetite stimulator, so it makes you crave more of it. And it can't be fully broken down in the body, so it turns into something called gliadin-derived opioid peptoids. Opioid. And they cross into the blood-brain barrier, and they stimulate your appetite and makes you want more. And then there's something called amylopectin A, and this is a carbohydrate, and it has a structure that makes it uniquely susceptible to digestion by the amylase in your mouth, in your saliva. So what it does is many of the components of wheat grains are indigestible or only partially digestible, but amylopectin A is the exception. It's highly digestible. So when you put a piece of bread in your mouth, the enzyme amylase in your saliva starts to digest it immediately. And that's why you get tooth decay. It's actually not so much from sugar, it's from bread and wheat. So the amylopectin A is converted to sugars immediately upon putting it in your mouth. And then, of course, it converts further when it goes into your stomach and can cause lots of other problems, high blood glucose. And I didn't know this, but if you look on charts with the high GI foods, whole wheat is at the top of the list. It's even higher than candy or table sugar. So it's very bad stuff. High blood glucose, of course, causes many problems, heart disease, diabetes. But what happens also is when blood glucose is high, you begin to glycate proteins. And this is an irreversible. You irreversibly modify these proteins. It can cause glial and neuronal proteins in the brain to glycate, causing cognitive impairment and dementia. It can cause glycation of collagen in the skin, bringing on early aging. It can cause glycation of collagen in your joints. It makes collagen and cartilage brittle, and it breaks down, leaving you susceptible to arthritis, which it did in my case. It can lead to glycation in the lenses of your eyes, which leads to opacities or cataracts. That's just amylopectin A. There's something else. It's called wheat germ agglutinin. And when this meets your blood, it causes agglutination or blood clotting. It's a potent blood clot provoker. Most people have antibodies against this wheat germ agglutinin, so most of it will pass through your system and into the toilet. But if you just give a speck, 1 milligram of wheat germ to a rat, it completely destroys their gastrointestinal tract. They use this in studies if they want to see, how to fix the gut. They give a little bit of wheat germ agglutinin, and boom, all the villi get denuded in the gut. And also it causes endotoxemia, which is the entry into the bloodstream of bacteria, which is what it was doing for me. I kept getting stomach infections. Nobody's knowing why. Nobody asked me what I was eating, of course. There's also phytates in wheat, and phytates are something that binds to minerals, positively charged minerals like magnesium, calcium, iron, and zinc, and it makes them unavailable for absorption. It actually reduces the absorption by 60 to 70%. It's a very high number. So these minerals are blocked from being absorbed, leaving you deficient, as I was. Iron deficiency causes anemia, mostly in women. Zinc deficiency leads to immune impairment. Magnesium deficiency leads to muscle cramps, which I got my whole life. So when I hear people saying that they can eat sourdough bread, or they can go to to Europe and the wheat is much better there, or they can say, I eat everything because I don't have a gluten sensitivity, I want to cry. It's completely incorrect, because you are causing damage to your intestinal tract and other systems. And of course, over time, it can develop into one or many chronic inflammatory diseases. Wheat was actually never meant to be consumed by humans. It was given to the masses to help prevent, massive death. But it's really, in the short term, yes, you can live, but in the long term, it's one of the most destructive and toxic foods in the diet. Please don't feed bread to your children, people. We're told by dietitians and doctors and the dietary guidelines that we should eat more of it, that it should be, a part of our daily consumption, which is complete nonsense and another reason to mistrust the medical industry. We all know that the medical industry does not train doctors in diet and nutrition. And in my research for this book, I found out that the average is 7 hours of nutrition training in 8 years. And of course, that's not a bug in the system, that is a feature. Imagine if most patients who had chronic illness went to their doctors and just learned that they had to change their diet, that they would never have to be on medications. How would doctors make any money, right? People are just not aware. They're not aware that their eczema, their IBS, their arthritis, their depression, their diabetes, any of those things, they don't know that it's related to their diet, to poor diets, and especially to vitamin and mineral deficiencies, which all lead to metabolic dysfunction, which leads to an array of chronic illnesses. So as you can see, the food industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry are in bed with each other, and they've been in bed with each other for decades. And it is, in my opinion, criminal. What I went through in my life, what I had to endure, was criminal. No young person should have to deal with what I dealt with. I lost years to chronic illness, to debilitating pain, to infections, to depression. And imagine just what the medical industry and pharmaceutical industry made just from me in all of those years that I'd been on those medications, doing the treatments, plus there was regular visits, of course, to renew those prescriptions. There were x-rays and MRIs and CT scans and bone density tests, bone marrow biopsies, experimental treatments, tonsil surgery, blood tests. I'm well over the $2 million mark, and I still haven't finished calculating. That's just one patient. When I started to add up all this wasted time and money, again, I was super angry. I started, I was paying into this broken medical system through my taxes, but I was missing work. I wasn't able to do a lot of what I wanted to do. My time was taken away from me. My joy of life was taken away from me. My ability to care for my son fully was taken away from me. So I felt gypped. I felt really gypped. So the physical healing had begun, but I still needed to heal emotionally. All that anger would come up about my doctors, and I was super frustrated. But then I discovered radical forgiveness. There's a book by Colin Tipping. And I had to employ this technique because I didn't want to live my life being angry with people. I realized it wasn't the individual doctors themselves. They were doing their best to try to help me. Of course, it was the system. So I couldn't blame them personally. So this radical forgiveness also helped me forgive my entire family, because during the pandemic, of course, I would not take vaccines. I had just been studying them and learned what they could do, and I was like never going to take another vaccine. So because I wouldn't comply, because my son and I, were excluded from gatherings, and they treated us very poorly. I'm sure many people here had the same experience with their same family. But the whole idea that rejecting a part of the population because of our decision to make personal decisions about our bodily autonomy, I found this to be morally reprehensible. So there was many people I had to forgive, not just my family. Yeah, and I realized, I've come to see that many people in my family, of course, they're carrying their own heavy burdens. Most of my family have chronic inflammatory illnesses. They have weight issues. They're on one or many pharmaceutical medications. They have multiple addictions, and many of them have also been harmed by vaccines. So in many ways, they're doing the best that they can with the worldview that they have. But as we know, when you live inside this little bubble and you don't have the ability to get a wider perspective, you don't really know, and the TV propaganda machine, of course, is very powerful, as we all know. So radical forgiveness became a big healer for me, and it came into my life at a really good time. I was able to get back my equilibrium with all of these, modalities that I was doing, but all of these things combined to heal. I would say the most important thing, the catalyst, was the psychedelic experience. This psychedelic experience helped me to trust myself and to believe that what I was doing, so far had been working. And now I feel super blessed to be able to help other people do the same. And like Derek was mentioning in his talk, he wants to help people with drug addiction. I really want to help people with food and sugar addiction. I really feel like it's my passion. Doctors today are very ill-equipped to teach you about wellness. They don't know about preventative medicine. That's functional medicine's role. That's integrative medicine's role. But I'm not saying allopathic medicine has no value. There are some good things about it. If you need surgery, if you're in a car accident, don't go to your naturopath. Go to the doctor. Because those are the ones that are, it's the other doctors though that are going to help you. They're going to combine the best of all worlds. So that's it. So allopathy offers band-aid solutions. I'm all about root cause resolution. And I remind people that, if you're going to give up wheat and gluten and things, it doesn't have to be forever, just until you heal your gut. But what I found over and over again is people, they don't go back. They don't want to go back because they start feeling good. They start feeling healthy. Why would I ever go back? I would never want to repeat, what I did. My being pain-free is my reward. And the desire to be healthy is much stronger for, than any of those the desire for any of those foods. So I'm just going to give you the top 3 solutions. Can we just get the next slide, please? So the first thing I suggest for everybody, next slide, thank you, is to start to detox your body. We're surrounded by toxins everywhere, in our food, in our air, everywhere. Start with some colon hydrotherapy. There's many, many different ways to detox, but it's super important. Next slide, please. Yeah, so psychedelic plant medicines. Anyone here never tried psychedelics? Can I see your hands? Okay, so I'm not pushing drugs, kids. Don't do drugs. I'm just saying it has the ability to shift things. If you're willing to try, if you're curious, find yourself a trip sitter, do some research, give it a try. It can be life-changing, as it was in my case. Next one, remove the inflammatory foods. I know giving up gluten is really tough. On my last slide, you'll see I have an alternative gluten-free flour that I've discovered. I'm helping him get this flour out into stores across Canada and eventually the US. There are alternatives. You don't need to go back to wheat. This flour I've used in tons of recipes. It bakes fluffy. You can have all those delicious sweet, things that you thought you could have, but do it. The last slide, please. Oh, I think that was it. So yeah, so detoxify, get rid of the gluten, try psychedelics if you can. And the last two things I'm just going to share is that just this past February, last year, I went back to get my red blood cell microscopy done after I'd done all this detox. And my numbers were 1.5 was the highest. I had a couple of ones. All the rest were zeros. It's amazing. And thank you. As of December 2025, it's been 4 years. I've been on no medication, over the counter or otherwise, no infusions, never been to a doctor, never been to a hospital. You can do it. You can heal yourself. Thank you so much. If you're interested in learning when the book comes out, go onto my website, get my newsletter. It's wendy@buddhiful.com. And I would love to share that with everybody who's interested. Thank you so much.
Give it up for Wendy one more time. All right. It's the community day. This is where it starts and this is where it ends. This is such an important day. So blessed to be here with y'all. And before we get to the next speaker, I just want to mention all of the amazing sponsors we have. Let's get them up on screen, please. Just a short note, thank you guys for coming out to the Above Phone workshop yesterday. I showed up a little late today. That party was wild, wasn't it? Woo! Took a lot out of me. So I'll be around for the rest of today. But I'm going to point your attention, first of all, to We Are Not Zombies. Give it up for the We Are Not Zombies team. They've been holding it down. Everyone's been looking so good on camera. And they have a table outside with merch. Beautiful designs of shirts, merch. Definitely check that out. And what I heard was there's one limited edition bottle of mezcal left. You got to go get that. Okay. I'm also going to point out our beautiful sponsors. There is InnoScale, which provides all of the cloud hosting that makes the Greater Reset possible. Go to innoscale.net. And also the Freedom Network, Freedom Soul Network. This is where it all started. The Conscious Existence and the Meditate More podcast, Weston A. Price, Xano, the private cryptocurrency, of course, Above Phone, Yoshi and Paula's Regenerative Culture, Daylight Computer, who we heard from yesterday, Conscious Spaces, Live Free Academy. And so, guys, and then there's logos on the screen too. So, guys, please go ahead and click on our sponsors. We want to make sure they're supported. We want to connect these projects together. It's so important. We know that these are counterculture efforts, and so they don't have the push of social media. So it's our job to spread these ideas out further. Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for letting me share some sponsors. We're gonna get to our next speakers. This beautiful power couple is very special. They have been working with us at Above for a while, and honestly, the level of heart center and attention they give to everyone is just so obvious. And I know that they have been traveling around the world, interacting with many different communities and types of people, experimenting with many types of plant medicines, and that has put them on a whole nother level. Did I say too much? Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I'm gonna let them surprise you guys. Please welcome Lucas and Ale to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. So our presentation today is called In Life You Win or You Learn, and we hope to share some experiences, some tools that we've learned along the way, and encourage you and hopefully inspire you to also apply them in your life.
It's a nice view from up here. I've been part on the People's Reset back when it started as the Greater Reset still. From the very beginning, I've actually been on every single event, and I feel honored to now be able also to reflect back on the inspiration that I've gotten from what I've seen, what I felt, especially what I felt through the course of this initiative. So yeah, let's get started with the. We have a little presentation prepared for you guys, and basically we want to propose a posture, a view, an outlook of life to you guys that has become very central for my path. And that's basically, there are only two experiences in life. You either win or you learn. Let's go to next slide, please. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, so attention is the most important that we have, and where we decide to put our attention is where our focus will go. So it's one of the most valuable assets.
It's through attention that we can allow things to grow and to foster. So it's key where we decide to put that attention. All right, let's go to the next slide. So here, this will be a bit of a theory class. And theory serves a specific purpose. It has a specific role, especially in terms of increasing the level of comprehension and understanding of our surrounding. There is actually, I want to just read that quote for you. To the extent of one's comprehension, each person may serve themselves. And to the extent of one's lack of comprehension, one might serve other powers unwillingly. So it's basically, yeah, well, okay. So this is to set the ground. Let's go to the next slide. So what we're talking about? Well, we're confronted in this existence with something called reality. And what is reality? Well, we don't really know. We have some kind of vague idea, but actually as this model that is kind of inspired by what Immanuel Kant proposes, we don't really know what the object is. It's a question mark. And we, through our senses, our comprehension, we can get a certain image, a certain perception of reality. However, there are certain limits based on, well, the limits of our comprehension of our senses, of our understanding, of our biases, of our capacities, of our past experiences. All of this will actually affect how we can, in the end, decide to interpret the object. This is also, by the way, it's known as the, with the terms from Immanuel Kant, it's the noumena, which is the actual thing as is, and the phenomena is what we perceive it to be. And there is a difference. So let's go to the next slide. As I said, there is a free will component of how we decide to interpret reality. And let's go to the next slide. This is actually something that touches deep to my heart, because this is a picture of a piece of cloth that I've seen in my house even before I could read it, let alone understand it. And basically it says in German, "Your eyes can make the world seem clouded or bright. Depending on how you look at it, it will cry or it will laugh." Okay, let's go to the next slide. So what we can already see, language is that's better? All right, thanks. So it's about language. It's actually also language that allows you to get a better comprehension of this reality. And since we're at the talk of community, we're going to tie this all together. Like, this is a vast array of topics that we're bringing all together to try to help you and myself in our path to continuously expand and in our understanding of reality.
Yeah. So when we are using honest language, we should define words before using them. We should be on the same page when talking to someone to agree and to be able to communicate better. Also, it's good to approach language in a humble way, and well, instead of using absolute wording like always, never, nothing, all, like be humble of this and use actual terminology.
So I want to bring this to the attention. How often is it that we hear somebody else or ourselves use words like always, like that always happens to me, or please never do that, or whatnot, or also like words that like you have to do that because there is no because. There's just you have to, you must, and this is actually not a humble approach to how language can be used, in my opinion at least, because it's creating a false reality. It's alluding to something that we as humans can barely understand, which is infinite or zero, even though we're kind of confronted with that. But we can barely conceptualize that, yet it is used in language all the time. See what I did there? It's not used all the time, it's used a lot. So what I invite everybody here to never use this type of language again. Now it sounds ridiculous, right? Now that you have the context. So yeah, be careful of the words that you're using. There's a power in language, because the thoughts that we cultivate, they will lead to words, and these words may lead to actions. These actions over time can turn into habits, which can shape our character, and certain characters await certain destinies. Let's go to the next slide.
So let's define community. What is a community? It's a group of people with like-minded people with shared values, and they get together in a place to fulfill their needs. However, this community is made out of individuals, and each individual has their own posture, their own belief system, their own conditioning.
Everybody chooses to interpret the reality in a different way, and that's what's happening in communities. Is there is a kind of a certain confrontation, at least, right? And something else that I have seen in just observing what happens in communities, there are these, I want to call them transcending human qualities. If you've seen, like in communities, people always, they try to make each other laugh. There's like humor, that type of spirit, that type of vibration. Also, compassion is what really binds communities together in order to actually be able to recognize each other's needs. There's also the creativity aspect, to always be able to evolve, to to not get stagnant, for energy to flow, because with every generation there's new energy coming in. And also that can allow for a level of regeneration, and truth is also an important quality. If these qualities are not present, it may be a symptom of an unhealthy community. Let's go to the next slide. So, talking about unhealthy communities, well, there's also the idea of corruption, something that is, well, very common here in Mexico. So what is corruption? Let's define the word. It's basically, it just means decay. And here's a definition that I picked up. Corruption is a form of dishonesty undertaken by a person that is entrusted in a position of authority to acquire illicit benefits or abuse power for one's own gain. Okay, so it's an imbalance. Like there is one party in a group, in a system, that is abusing its power, creating an imbalance. Let's go to the next slide. And what my argument to you is that this abuse of power is actually not happening like from one individual in the group. It's happening inside of that individual. It's happening because there is what one could maybe call a corruption of the individual level, or of the self. So now we're getting to the next topic. Let's define what is the self. Well, we have different concepts about that. Carl Jung proposed some very valuable ideas about it. And also there is a yogic understanding of the 5 koshas, or also the 3 bodies like mind, body, and spirit. Like, we can all agree that it's not just what is visible to the eye that makes ourselves up. There are things below, there are several layers. And already recognizing these layers will allow to expand the possibilities of how we interpret what is going on. You see where I'm going with this? So these different bodies or selves or aspects of ourself, they all have different needs. And for example, we can think about Abraham Maslow. He created this famous hierarchy of needs. And there we're kind of getting closer to what is actually going on when we're talking about corruption. Let's go to the next slide. So something that I said in the definition of corruption, there is one person abusing kind of the power for one's own gain. And person is an interesting word within itself, because it actually comes from the word mask. And mask, well, that's something that is like a layer. It's, well, there are also many different ideas about that, right? It's like a veil that is put in front of something else, of the real self, maybe. And it may serve as a means of protection, but it also may, in the end, it will create false realities through that as well. So one way how we can think about that I have observed is whether people are reactive or proactive in the way how they go about their lives. And this means that people that are just thrown into a game of whatever it is, the money game or the taxes game or whatever, a career game, or a beauty dating game or whatever, and they're just reactive to what is going around them, they may not be able to fully express themselves from like the different qualities of their self, and rather react to that, what has been proposed to them. And there is also a way, and this is where we're going to get to, of being proactive, having a proactive approach in how to go about life, recognizing one's own needs and being aligned with that. So it's that inner imbalance that can lead to that corruption. That's my argument to you. Let's go to the next slide. You want to go with this?
Yeah. So what is the true self? Well, it is our potential of becoming. It is exploring the nuances of one's complex being to come forth, and like trying to get the true self. It's actually the goal. It's allowing energy to flow, and well, it's circling in closer to one's true self. In trying to achieve the true self, it's using free will, and that is actual freedom.
So it's like taking off the mask to see what is behind that mask. And the true self, like, while it's hard to define, we don't really know. We may not actually get to the final answer, but maybe it's not about that. Maybe it's about the process. It's about the potential, that free will that we have, that capacity that allows us to decide. That's the true self that then decides to take certain forms. Let's go to the next slide. So as one goes on the path of circling into the true self, one might immediately get into discomfort in certain ways, because these are things that are not known to us. So discomfort, well, there is a broader concept of the comfort zone, and we're gonna dive a bit into that, of how the comfort zone is something that can happen on all these different levels that we've proposed, and what we can do about it, basically. So let's define the words first. What is a comfort zone? Well, it's where, here's a definition, where our uncertainty, scarcity, and vulnerability are minimized, and we believe we have access to enough love, food, talent, time, admiration, while having some feeling of control. So this definition is okay-ish. It's already kind of getting to a lot of things that come to my mind. I am not fully happy with it. I think there's more to that, and we're going to expand on it. But yeah, the idea of a comfort zone. So reflecting on that, it's something perfect. Thank you for making my point, because the comfort zone is created in the infancy from the mothers, from the caretakers, and from the parents. And it has a very, very important role in human development, because humans take so long to actually develop, and they can't take responsibility from the get-go. So the comfort zone has a very important role right there. However, there is another side, like once we're grown up, and we might get stuck in that level of comfort. So let's go to the next slide. And how can this be also used or abused by other powers? Well, the comfort zone offers convenience and security, and allows us to basically give off responsibility. Well, we have an entity, unfortunately, that we're dealing with that wants to claim authority over the game that we're playing, which is called government. And in this way, the comfort zone can become a crutch on a personal level that can hinder an individual to evolve beyond their actual level, or it can also be a bait in order to to lead people along with whatever is further down the path by the powers that have a better comprehension of reality. Comfort zone can create this level of dependence, and also they can act in kind of subtle ways, like they can harvest the attention, and so that the attention cannot come to other parts that actually want to evolve. Think of TVs, think of screens, basically, of these realities that are cultivated around screens, especially when they're controlled, or also things like sports and media and politics. It's about directing the attention a certain way. And now that you know that, you can decide to step back from that and do it a different way if you want. So, because if we don't do that, the comfort zone that is created in mainstream society, well, all of a sudden it doesn't sound so comforting anymore, when it's like, okay, you can only participate in mainstream society if you have a certain level of whatever, digital ID, biometrics, things, whatever. So it's going to get uncomfortable eventually in that comfort zone. So we might as well, rather than being exposed to a level of discomfort that we cannot control, we might want to step into outside of the comfort zone in a controlled way. And let's go to the next slide. Let's see how that can be done.
The next slide, please.
Next slide, yeah. So we can leave the comfort zone on a physical level. What comes to mind for you?
Yeah, in a physical level, there's well, we are used to certain foods that are maybe not so nutritious but taste good. So it is recommendable, or is advisable, to get out of that and perhaps try another way of nutrition that really enhances your health. It also can be done through exercise, through yoga, doing cold plunges, sweat lodges, putting yourself in situations where it might be not be the nicest or the most comfortable, but it's getting out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, just the action of doing exercise, of going out to whatever, calisthenics, jogging, whatever it is. There's already a level of discomfort, but we actually doing that, almost immediately we get a payoff for that. And yeah, just to hammer down on the point on food, is just switching the idea of that food is just for pleasure. It's just or that it's actually nutrition that we're taking in, and we have heard that before as well. Okay, let's move on. Let's look at it from a different perspective. Let's go to the next slide. How can we deal with that on an emotional level? So maybe to define emotions, Well, emotions are the feelings that are uttered, that are kind of creeping through underneath everything else, or the mindset. And emotions are there to be felt. They're signals that have a purpose. That's my understanding, at least. So it can be quite beneficial to work on that level, especially for men who have been a lot of times taught to ignore their emotions for like when they grew up, especially from older generations. And here are some practices that I find quite fruitful to try out. Authentic relating, trying actually using honest language on the level of emotions, and sitting down and actually expressing. I mean, also there's a nonviolent communication as a complete concept of how that can be done. But also other aspects, like men and women circle, where it's pretty much about that, but just doing it in a group of brotherhood or sisterhood that can create this container of mutual understanding of this experience. Yeah, and the inner work, also what we've heard just before on psychedelic journeys or spiritual practices, a lot of times these allowed for the emotions to really come through and for them to be felt and to recognize them. Be careful with the emotions to not judge them in a too complex manner. There is also an idea that I find interesting called where we only have 4 or sometimes 5 basic emotions, and all the more complex ones are actually they're already the mind getting into that, interpreting it in a certain way. But at the base level, we can feel happiness, joy. I mean, we can feel fear, sadness, and what's the
Anger.
Thank you. Exactly. And then there's, well, some people say disgust is also its own thing. But yeah. So let's go to the next one. That one I find also quite interesting. And that's the mental comfort zone. And this is something that I keep checking in with myself, because I find it so fascinating how pervasive it is. The confirmation bias, that it's just something that it seems innate in us humans, is whatever we already believe, we will find patterns, we will look for patterns, we will recognize those to confirm what we already believe. It's so pervasive that one can actually lead oneself into distorted realities, and I've seen that quite a bit as well. Yeah, but apart from that, it's the paradigms, the beliefs, like the conditioning that we're bringing, and how that is cultivated. It's the confirmation bias is part of all of that. And in the end, also what kind of self-image that we decide to have of ourselves, like how we go into certain dynamics, into certain groups or relationships. For example, the 2 different mindsets of scarcity versus abundance, where scarcity is something that is almost ingrained in culture, in the destructive culture that is mainstream society. And abundance, how that is actually, it's a different it's a different posture altogether. And also there are certain mental like effects of that, depending on how we decide to think about it. Or also the archetypes of the teacher and the student. And for example, once we know how something is done, we like to take the role of the teacher, and also there's a level of confirmation bias happening, or the ego that is then confirming that belief, and then it can be hard to switch into the role of the student. Yet it's good to be aware of that dynamic and to always be able to slip into that role, to be able to learn more. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, there's also a habitual aspect of leaving the comfort zone. This can be addictions to certain routines, to certain foods, and how we get out of there. It's important. Also in the financial aspect, there's jobs, there's wealth, there's savings that can be keeping us from achieving our true self, from getting out and trying something else perhaps.
I've heard from so many people is like, yeah, I don't really want to do this, but it's like I've been doing this job for 10 years and it pays well and whatnot, but it doesn't actually resonate from a deeper level. And then it's like, well, there are these levels, there are other needs that want to be expressed. And then it's just about stepping outside of that comfort zone, creating something new, creating a new game. So we're going to get to that. Let's go to the next slide. There are also comfort zones. We can look at it from a cultural perspective, and that's something that we encounter immediately when traveling, of how things are done quite differently in other places. And just traveling is such a it's such a great practice to do if one goes with open eyes and not just in 5-star hotels or whatever it is, but actually mix in with the people to learn from them. Learning languages within itself, because again, as I said, languages, they form an important part of how we conceptualize reality. And with different languages, they do it differently. And like for me, I grew up with German, and I'm a different person when I speak English. I notice, and people, I already heard that as well. And I'm also kind of a different person when I speak Spanish. So yeah, it's quite interesting, and also recognizing that from myself is like, wow, I had no idea that could be that. Yeah, technological. Well, that was the topic of yesterday. So there's also, the cultivated environments that are being created by big tech agencies. And stepping out of the comfort zone there may mean, well, let's try out open source solutions. Let's try out Linux or other, like basically solutions that are transparent, that a lot of times means we have to take responsibility into our own hands. So the idea of responsibility comes in, well, at least at this point, but really all throughout, especially also in tech, when using decentralized solutions where it's, taking things in one's own hand. Okay, finally, we have two more. There are also, let's go to the next slide, please. There are also comfort zones that can be created on a relationship level. And what I've seen is that people can get dependent on each other. They can get used to each other. And this can also turn out, pretty destructive. Toxic relationships where people have become so used to each other that they can't even live life separately anymore. And also these projections that a lot of times happen in relationships where we judge people in a certain way, which can create a certain image. And that image is always like projected from one side towards the other. And leaving that comfort zone, that's a difficult one, which leads me to the next one, because it's the spiritual one, is dealing with the idea of death. And like right now we're in this existence of material things, and the fate of all material things is that they will fade away eventually. And realizing that can be a tough one for humans. So, but it's something that's at some point it's bound to happen. So yeah, leaving the comfort zone on that level may also mean just being aware of that, talking about it, bringing it into one's attention. Also maybe studying different spiritual ideologies, how they deal with that. Also maybe psychedelics, again, they can lead us very close to these type of experiences. And that one might be the one that underlies everything else, like that fear that can be quite deep and ingrained. All right, let's go to the next slide. Let's go one back. So as you've seen, it's about, we're suggesting, try to reach beyond the comfort zones. try to identify these comfort zones. These were just some ideas, like some perspectives. I'm sure you can come up with more. And with the approach of looking at pain as something that we can draw from, pain as a master, because it is integral to our experience. And pain, of course, it's unpleasant, it's discomfort. However, we can also decide to interpret pain as impulses that are pointing us to unfulfilled needs or to stuck energy. There's something that wants to get flowing. Yeah. Identifying with pain can, however, lead also to the danger of the victim mindset. And so what can be interesting is to kind of recognize pain, but not, take it in as on a personal level. And cold plunges are very interesting on that regard. Also, working with temperatures, sweat lodges and cold plunges is like exposing the body to that kind of thing and being able to work on the level of willpower to endure that, and knowing that there is some benefit in the long run from that. Or what I like to do, eat really hot habanero chilies. That also does it for me. All right, let's go to the next slide. You want to do this one?
Yes. So leaving the comfort zone might lead to have fear of the unknown, to be afraid of the unknown, to be afraid of failure, maybe losing status, and this is something that we tend to resist. So we don't do it. It can also trigger a fear of dying when going against the mainstream, against your family. This is a very basic, a very sort of like almost an instinct of feeling of expulsion. We don't want to be rejected. We want to be accepted. We want to be part of the community, the society.
Let's go to the next slide. We might need to speed up a bit. So we leave the comfort zone in order to find true comfort. And that's through doing that, like through expressing these different parts of ourselves and fulfilling the needs on the different bodies that are within us, we can actually get a sort of self-esteem, a sort of vigor that flows through us, that it's not a comfort that is cultivated from the outside. So it's a sovereign way of achieving true comfort. And yeah, it's by this approach of seeing infinite possibilities to reinvent oneself, of always like looking at problems as something to draw from, as something to learn from. Because we ingrain this regenerative quality that we can see in nature all around us. Nature can regenerate itself when the energy is allowed to flow where it needs to go, and we are that. And also, when we do that on a community level, we will find a deeper level of connection with each other, and just joy and growth, like that, basically that humor, recognizing each other on a compassionate level. Let's go to the next slide. So we encourage everyone to become active and become an author of their own experience, of their own feelings, of their own thoughts, of their own fate eventually. And recognize areas where one might still be passive and still be reactionary, rather than already proactive and creating from one's own desire where to go. And to cultivate the feelings that we want to foster in the end. All right, let's go to the next slide. So here are some more ways to rephrase that, what I've already said a lot of times. Yeah, just do something and then reflect on the experience. You can like fail forward. You win or you learn in life. There is actually a tribe in Colombia. I have not visited them, but I have a friend of mine spent time with them, and he told me about, they have two basically views of experience, of life experience. They if they see if they see a situation, they see it as a hot or a sweet experience. And hot means it's something new, it's something unknown. And there is basically, I may learn something here. And sweet means I already know that situation, I can just enjoy it. Let's go to the next slide. So coming back to tying this back to community, I came up with this kind of concept of permaculturing relationships. And that is when we are in contact with other individuals, we can actually decide where we put the focus on. If we have certain expectations and those expectations are not fulfilled by the other one, we could decide to just look at that problem right there, or we could look behind the destructive action itself and recognize the actual needs. And rather than complaining, we can instead also decide to put the attention on what we already like, what is happening from that person, and cultivate that, always connecting on a level of needs and empathy. Let's go to the next slide. Chris? Okay. Yeah, because in something that happens a lot in communities is projection. And projection is basically the image that we decide then to put onto each other. And sometimes we do that from ourselves as well. That's why I flipped the graphic there. So it can be beneficial to allow for room for others to reinvent themselves and to explore and evolve together, to dig deeper, to try to get all the basic needs out, like all the hidden needs. Sometimes we don't even know that we have them, and only with emotional practice and creating the space and compassion and container for that can those actually come out. Sometimes we don't we don't dare to utter them. That happens mostly actually. And yeah, when all of that is on the table and we can connect on a level of empathy, it allows us to, as individuals, reach more and more possibilities, help each other to reach the possibilities of their path. Let's go to the next slide. This one is to just hammer down my point even further. It's just to approach problems. I mean, even the idea, last year we had a gentleman here who had an issue with the word problem because it demands a solution. It's like, well, maybe there is no problem in the first place. But yeah, approaching problems as challenges, not as obstacles, as with a curiosity mindset, as opportunities to grow. And yeah, considering the bigger picture, going through life with the vision of a child. And if you observe kids, they're curious. They have two things. A lot of times they're just joyful and they're curious. And with that approach, problems are amazing. They're more than welcome. Okay. All right. Looks like we're ready to wrap up almost. So yeah, this is my suggestion, how healthy communities can be formed. And just recognizing the principles of nature, of regeneration, of allowing the energy to flow where it will to reach homeostasis. Let's go to the next few slides. This is something that we have been doing just as a more concrete way of putting that into practice. Next slide, please. This is an event that we started to put together called Metamorphosis. Next slide, please. And we just basically used the principle of what has inspired us from the People's Reset, and we decided to create an activation day right there. And already community is forming just by that. We've done it now 3 times, and every single time there were important connections made. You can go to the next slide, just showing the schedule that we put together. Go to the next slide again. And yeah, I want to just wrap up also with something that is dear to my heart and that will happen later on. Another way to step out of the comfort zone and to do it in a safe way together is the Music Temple. And this is basically an invitation to create the space to explore individual creativity together and practicing self-responsibility, taking initiative, allowing the energy to flow, because the voice is the channel that connects the inside to the outside world. Can go to the next slide, which is, this is what we had, the circle we had last year. So we invite you to create that together later on today. And you can now, thank you, yeah. Final slide. So, as I said, in life, we either win or we learn to win. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Ale and Lucas. One more round of applause for them. They have been a big part of this community from the get-go. They have been action-oriented and consistent, and I truly appreciate that example from them. This next talk is going to be in Spanish, so go ahead and take a moment to grab your headsets if you like to listen to it in English. So one of the ways that we make all of this beautiful event activation possible, and I wish you guys make it here in person next time, because truly, I have been hearing over and over and over again, this is the best one yet. This is the best one yet. And every year, it's amazing. And we are so supported and so loved and so everything, that the effects that are happening here, the impact that is happening here is truly making a difference. And I see it now, and the stuff that I don't even get to see is just, I know it's just incredible. And so the way that we are able to make this happen is through sponsors. And one of our sponsors this year is the Meditate More podcast. And this was a great surprise for me that they became our sponsors, because Derek introduced me to the Meditate More podcast. And you guys know, I love meditating. It has been playing a big role in my life and my growth and my expansion and in my healing. And whenever I started listening to the Meditate More podcast, it brought me back to the core of meditation, to the basics, to the center, straight to the point. And also too, with some parts that I had not integrated very consciously into my meditation practice, which was the principles that go along with meditation. Truth is one of them. I mean, dive into it. I highly encourage you to dive into it. There is actually a free, like a free workshop or a free 7-day guidance workshop that you can run through, that is going to help you meditate more, like the podcast purposes, meditate more, and you will truly gain some incredible tools in your life to navigate life in the ways that you need to, that are going to help you truly continue to grow and expand and make happen in your life what you need to make happen, what you want, what you carry in your heart, and elevate yourself and the people around you. So thank you so much to Meditate More podcast. And also to another way that we're able to survive truly is through your support, through those of you who show up here in person. You guys are supporting so much by buying your ticket and coming here, but also through the donations. So if you're at home, if you're here in person, if any of this has been of value to you, and if this is the first time, if this is the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth time that you have been here with us, if this has been of value to you, please donate. Please go to thepeoplesreset.org/donate and make sure you share your support. Let us know how this has impacted you, and we want to continue doing this for you, but we truly can't do it without your support. So thank you so much for taking a moment to do that. Y ahora les introduzco a nuestro próximo orador, nuestra próxima oradora. Suheil Flores. Para nosotros es bien importante, como estamos creando comunidad, varios de ustedes ya lo saben, The Conscious Agora, la Agora Consciente. Aquí en Morelia ya tenemos nuestro grupo, ya tenemos nuestra comunidad y está creciendo un poquito más, y ha sido bien importante tener las herramientas adecuadas para poder hacer las decisiones necesarias para que nosotros podamos construir, no nada más las estructuras físicas que necesitamos para vivir, para invitarlos a todos ustedes, para un taller, para un concierto, para todas las actividades que vamos a tener, pero también para las estructuras en nuestras relaciones, para cómo nos vamos a estar comunicando, las decisiones que se necesitan hacer del día al día, para la comunidad, para todo, para que todo fluya en armonía. Y entonces, para mí es un gran honor tener a Suheil aquí hablando con ustedes, introduciendo estas estructuras y podamos todos aprender y a integrar también esto en nuestras comunidades. Va a ser algo que de veras nos va a ayudar a todos crecer y bueno, pues seguir construyendo comunidades libres y conscientes. Por favor, una gran bienvenida a Suheil.
¿Sí se escucha? Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Suheil Flores y estoy aquí desde Filadelfia. Soy de México, de Durango, pero es un placer estar aquí ya en este último día. Y antes de empezar, quería contarles algo. Anoche, cuando me acosté con mis niños a dormirlos, les pregunté qué es algo que les gustó mucho del día de hoy, cómo les fue en su día. Y uno de mis niños me dijo que una de sus cosas favoritas de su día fue pasar tiempo conmigo. Entonces, como mamá, eso es como un gran éxito, ¿no? Cuando un niño te dice que su tiempo contigo ha sido de las cosas favoritas, pues me llenó el corazón. También me recordaron que hoy era mi gran día, porque hoy iba a estar en el escenario y que tenía que prepararme. Y me dijeron que iban a estar aquí en la fila de enfrente para verme. Entonces le quiero dedicar esta presentación a mis dos niños que están aquí apoyándome, a Cian y a Cier. Y porque también me recordaron lo importante que es que nuestros niños y nuestros jóvenes aprendan a autogestionarse, que aprendan a relacionarse y a tomar decisiones de una manera colaborativa y que dejen atrás esos modelos ya que están pasando, ¿no? De control y de comando, y que adopten como lo normal el poder compartido y el encontrar su propio poder. Entonces, pues por eso les dedico esta presentación a ellos. Y bueno, quiero empezar hoy haciendo como un tour express de las diferentes maneras de tomar decisiones que conocemos. Por un lado tenemos la autocracia, ¿cierto? Donde hay una persona que toma decisiones y los demás simplemente ejecutamos la orden del de arriba. La verdad es que esta es una forma de toma de decisión muy eficiente si se quiere hacer algo rápido, ¿no? No se tiene que debatir, simplemente una persona ordena lo que es y se hace. Fácil. Pero no es incluyente, no hay transparencia y en el peor de los casos puede ser muy dominante de maneras muy, muy negativas. Pero no tenemos que irnos a estados con autócratas o gobiernos de esa índole. Simplemente en nuestras propias familias a veces tenemos una forma de decisiones de una autocracia, ¿no? La mamá o el papá decide y así se hace. Por otro lado tenemos el voto, que es la manera de decisión, la forma de decisiones en la democracia. Es eficiente porque contamos votos y ya tenemos el resultado de qué vamos a hacer. es más incluyente, porque ya no es nada más la voz de una persona, pero el voto crea un sistema de adversarios, ¿cierto? Donde realmente el propósito es generar votos, atraer a personas que van a votar por mi propuesta o por mi candidato. Y con esto también vemos lo que se conoce como la tiranía de la mayoría, donde la mayoría gana, tenemos un buen porcentaje de personas de la población que gana y los demás son perdedores y la voz de esas personas se pierde, ¿sí? Entonces, pues, de nuevo, es más incluyente, pero también no es tan efectivo y no es incluyente para todos. Luego tenemos el consenso, que podríamos decir que es la manera más incluyente de la toma de decisiones, porque ahí requiere que todas las personas estemos de acuerdo. Todas las voces cuentan, pero todos deben de estar de acuerdo, lo cual crea un sistema que suele ser en grupos, sobre todo grandes, muy ineficiente. Podemos tardar mucho tiempo en tomar decisiones muy sencillas porque se requiere que todos estemos de acuerdo. Y ahí también vemos lo que es la tiranía de la minoría. En este caso, una persona o dos personas pueden bloquear todo un proceso. Simplemente que no esté de acuerdo y se bloquea el proceso. Y a mí me gusta incluir este otro sistema que es muy común en grupos como los que tenemos aquí, que es el flujo natural. Esta idea de que dejemos que las cosas fluyan, se den orgánicamente, es muy bonita la intención, pero solemos caer en los mismos patrones de control. Alguien en algún momento va a tomar el comando, el poder, y vamos a replicar los mismos patrones que no queremos, ¿sí? Se vuelve inefectiva también porque ya no hay claridad, no sabemos quién toma decisiones, cómo, cuándo, se crea un resentimiento y se erosiona también la confianza. Entonces, pues vemos que por un lado podemos tener formas de tomar decisiones muy efectivas, pero no incluyentes, y de otro lado pueden ser muy incluyentes, pero no efectivas, ¿cierto? El modelo de gobernanza que nosotros enseñamos y con el que apoyamos a organizaciones se llama sociocracia. Es el mismo modelo que Derek y ellos utilizan en su comunidad. Sociocracia. Socio del latín socio, aliados. Cracia de kratos, que es algo así como dirigir. Nosotros lo interpretamos como aquellos que trabajan juntos, deciden juntos, ¿sí? Y la sociocracia tiene como propósito hacer que la gobernanza, la toma de decisiones sea tanto efectiva como incluyente y transparente también, cosa que no vemos con las otras tomas de decisiones. ¿Y cómo se ve esto? Bueno, no traigo visuales, así que les voy a hacer una réplica, les voy a mostrar cómo sería, cómo se forma un círculo, cómo distribuimos el poder. Imagínense, ¿sí me escucho bien? De repente sentí que ok. Imagínense que somos un grupo de personas que tenemos un propósito. Queremos crear una comunidad intencional donde todos los miembros florezcan en todos los ámbitos de su vida, físico, emocional, espiritual, ¿sí? Y nos sentamos en un círculo a dialogar. El círculo es la geometría del diálogo, ¿cierto? Para dialogar siempre estamos en círculo. Y al centro de ese círculo hay una llama o un fuego. Y ese fuego representa el propósito de nuestro grupo. Está contenido ahí. Y también tenemos, no se rían de mi palito, es un bastón de comando, ¿sí? Entonces tenemos un fuego que representa el propósito y el bastón de mando que representa la autoridad que tenemos para tomar decisiones, ¿sí? Para llevar a cabo ese propósito. Entonces aquí está contenido todo lo que tenemos que hacer. pero decidimos que hay que enfocar la acción en áreas definidas. Por ejemplo, decidimos que queremos que haya un grupo de personas, un círculo que se enfoque en crear actividades que fomenten la vida social de la comunidad. Y decidimos, vamos a crear un círculo. Entonces tomamos brasas o parte de ese fuego y lo llevamos, y ahora ese es el propósito de este nuevo círculo. Digamos que ese nuevo círculo se llama vida social. Y tienen un propósito que ya no es parte de este círculo, y tomamos también nuestro bastón de mando y les damos el dominio que tienen, ¿sí?, para tomar sus decisiones. Entonces, el fuego es un propósito. Esto representa las decisiones que pueden tomar por sí solos, sin pedirle permiso al círculo mayor. Este dominio ya no pertenece a este círculo mayor, les pertenece a ellos. Es un círculo semiautónomo. Decidimos que necesitamos un enfoque en las áreas comunes. Queremos que haya una gestión y un mantenimiento de las áreas comunes. Entonces formamos otro círculo acá, tomamos parte de ese fuego, de ese propósito, y se lo damos. Ya no corresponde a ese círculo, esa parte del propósito. De igual manera, nuestro dominio se va haciendo más pequeño en este círculo mayor, porque ahora es este círculo quien tiene el poder de tomar decisiones sobre las áreas comunes, el área comunal o la cocina, no sé, los caminos, las cercas. Ellos toman decisiones ya sobre esos temas, ya no está allá. Y así se va dividiendo, hasta que tal vez este círculo mayor no tiene ya un dominio definido, más que el coordinar el flujo y apoyar con el trabajo de los demás círculos. Y de esta manera, como el círculo mayor decide formar otros círculos, cada uno de los círculos hijos o subcírculos pueden seguir los mismos principios y agarrar parte de su fuego y formar otro círculo. Y ellos pueden hacer lo mismo y formar otro círculo. Y el dominio y el propósito se va distribuyendo. Ese es el principio del poder distribuido para ser más eficientes. Ahora, nosotros consideramos que las organizaciones son vivas, son sistemas vivos, son complejos. Las partes de un sistema no funcionan en aislamiento. Si estas partes que creamos no están aisladas, tienen que estar. Los sistemas vivos son permeables. Necesita que haya comunicación que suba y baja. Entonces, ¿cómo hacemos eso? El otro día teníamos aquí un arte y la iba a usar para mostrarles, y creo que está allá afuera. Pero los círculos no están solos, tienen que estar conectados. ¿Y cómo lo hacemos? Bueno, pues este nuevo círculo elige a un líder y a un representante que tienen poder de decisión en este círculo hijo, pero también pertenecen al círculo mayor y también tienen poder de decisión en el círculo mayor. Y este otro círculo que formamos acá de áreas comunes elige a un líder y a un representante que toman decisiones en su círculo, pero también son miembros del círculo mayor. Y el círculo mayor o el círculo general se conforma de los líderes y representantes de cada uno de los círculos, no de todas las personas, para hacerlo eficiente. Esperamos que estos círculos tengan no más de 8 personas para que fluyan, para que haya decisiones más eficientes. Esto es el principio del doble enlace, donde la información sube y baja. El líder baja la información de su círculo mayor a su círculo hijo y el representante sube la información de aquí a allá, como sistemas vivos. Hablamos de los círculos seleccionando a sus representantes y sus líderes y otros roles. En sociocracia no usamos el voto, usamos selecciones abiertas. Cuando seleccionamos los roles en nuestro círculo, que puede ser el líder, representante, también siempre un círculo debe tener un facilitador y un secretario, pero también roles operativos, otros roles que se encargan de otras funciones. No se hace a través del voto, se hace a través de selecciones abiertas. ¿Por qué? Porque queremos ser transparentes y también eficaces e incluyentes. Y se hace porque primero tenemos que definir cuál es la función de ese rol, luego tenemos que definir cuáles son las cualidades que queremos ver en ese rol. Y luego elegimos basado en las cualidades, no en quién quiere hacer, no pedimos quién quiere ser voluntario. Ser voluntarios, muchos de nosotros lo hacemos por agradar, porque tenemos ya ese chip de que tenemos que ser serviciales, a veces por miedo o control, de que si no lo hago yo, nadie lo va a hacer bien, así que yo lo voy a hacer. Aquí no se trata de eso. Se trata de realmente seleccionar a la persona que tenga las cualidades para ese rol. Y lo hacemos de manera abierta. Son 3 pasos. 1, con nuestra perspectiva única, nominamos a alguien. Nos podemos autonominar a nosotros y cada una de las personas del círculo nomina a alguien. Luego tenemos que decir a quién nominamos y por qué. En ese momento que estamos explicando la razón por la que nominamos a X persona, ya estamos dando información, nos estamos nutriendo. Pasamos a la siguiente ronda en este proceso, que es la ronda de cambio. Aquí ya escuché las razones de mis compañeros, ya no tengo nada más la mía, y eso me puede influir a mí en mi decisión. Entonces ahora puedo nominar a otra persona. Tal vez no sabía que fulanito tenía experiencia que es muy importante para este rol. Una vez que hicimos la ronda de cambio, el facilitador normalmente es quien hace una propuesta y pone un término. Siempre hay que poner un término. No elegimos a alguien por un término indefinido. Porque hay que evaluar y a veces las cualidades que se requieren de un líder, de un facilitador, cambian. Un ejemplo, durante la pandemia, Jerry, que es uno de los cofundadores de la organización con la que yo trabajo, Sociocracy for All, decidieron cambiar el líder de su círculo general, porque las circunstancias les pedían que tuvieran una persona con diferentes cualidades para tomar decisiones de diferente manera. Entonces lo hicieron. Entonces tener un líder no significa un jefe que está ahí indefinidamente, sino tiene un término y el círculo consiente a las personas que están en el círculo, porque son las mismas personas quienes van a tomar decisiones conjuntamente. Bueno, pues ya hablamos de círculos, ya hablamos de que estamos eligiendo roles. ¿Cómo tomamos decisiones, en sociocracia? No por consenso, sino por consentimiento. Es una forma de toma de decisión que se basa en que nuestra decisión o nuestro consentimiento esté alineado al propósito del círculo. ¿Sí? Mientras una propuesta no interfiera con nuestro propósito, no tengo razón para objetar. Tal vez no es mi propuesta favorita, tal vez yo puedo tener una mejor idea, tal vez la persona que hace la propuesta me cae mal, pero esa no es la razón para objetar. En el consenso es un poquito diferente porque no me gustó, no estoy de acuerdo. En el consentimiento ¿interfiere con el propósito del círculo? No. Toleras la incertidumbre. Una cosa importante es que nunca buscamos la perfección. No podemos saber si una decisión va a ser la perfecta hasta que no la implementamos. Y es durante la implementación que vamos conociendo, vamos teniendo esa retroalimentación de cómo funcionó, de qué cambios se necesitan. Entonces, un lema que los invito a que se lo graben es cuando vamos a tomar una decisión, cuestionarnos, esta decisión o esta propuesta es lo suficientemente segura para intentarla y lo suficientemente buena por ahora. Si es así, consentimos. Si no siento que es suficientemente segura o no es suficientemente buena por ahora, puedo objetar. Quiere decir que está fuera de mi rango de tolerancia. Si todos vamos a tolerar cierta incertidumbre, porque sabemos que no tenemos una propuesta perfecta sin haberla puesto en marcha, pero puedo tolerar, ¿cuánta incertidumbre puedo tolerar? Si ya es demasiada y siento que consentir a esa propuesta nos va a afectar, entonces digo que no. Y hay 3 pasos cuando tomamos decisiones por consentimiento, y son procesos que se repiten en muchos de los procesos sociocráticos. 1, te digo cuál es la propuesta. 2, te pregunto, ¿estás claro? ¿Tienes alguna pregunta? Queremos saber que partimos desde la claridad, ¿cierto? Y luego te pido que me des tus reacciones. Esta es la fase donde exploramos cómo nos sentimos conforme a la propuesta. Y luego ya les pido el consentimiento. Tal vez me dijeron, nada, no me gusta, pero a la hora de pedirles consentimiento, no objetan. Simplemente hay cosas que les gustaría que fueran de otra manera, pero está dentro de su rango de tolerancia. Entonces, 3 pasos, otra vez. Ronda de preguntas aclaratorias, ¿sí? Tenemos claridad sobre la propuesta. Ronda de reacciones rápidas. Me gusta, no me gusta, me gustaría, no sé, tengo dudas sobre algo, que me gustaría añadir algo, modificar la propuesta un poquito, que se puede hacer. Y número 3, consentir. Eso es básicamente el proceso que seguimos para la toma de decisión por consentimiento. Otro de los principios de la sociocracia, ya hablamos de 2. La estructura de círculo, ¿sí? Formamos círculos, distribuir el poder, los dobles enlaces, la toma de decisiones por consentimiento, y esta última es la mejora continua. De nuevo, ya lo han visto cómo se va desarrollando esto, ¿sí? Que no hay manera de hacer algo perfecto, porque eso no es eficiente. Todos los procesos que seguimos en sociocracia, por cierto, son con la finalidad de ser eficientes, incluyentes o transparentes. Eficientes, transparentes o incluyentes. Cambié el orden. Entonces, la mejora continua es con el propósito de ser eficientes. Intentar algo, experimentos pequeños, lo suficientemente seguro, lo suficientemente bueno, intentemos eso, aprender de eso, evaluar y volver y mejorar. Esa es la mejora continua. Por eso, cuando hablamos de un rol o de una propuesta X, cualquier propuesta, sea un rol o sea una propuesta de cualquier índole, necesita tener un término para poder evaluarla, ¿sí? Un término de, tal vez no estoy tan conforme con el líder que elegimos, si fuera por un año, pero sí si lo elegimos por 3 meses. 3 meses me siento suficientemente segura, ya que lo vamos a evaluar en un corto plazo. Mejora continua. No es perfecto, pero evaluémoslo. Intentemos y lo evaluemos. Y como sistemas vivos, las organizaciones como sistemas vivos están en constante evolución. La estructura de círculos que formen inicialmente no va a quedarse estática. Va a cambiar y va a cambiar y va a cambiar. La estructura que formó Sociocracy for All hace 10 años, que es cuando comenzó esta organización, ha cambiado muchísimas veces. No se asemeja para nada a lo que fue hace 10 años. Y así van a cambiar sus organizaciones también, si lo hacen de manera sociocrática. Y dentro de los procesos que tenemos en sociocracia, hay muchas maneras de obtener retroalimentación. Por ejemplo, al final de cada una de nuestras reuniones hay una ronda de cierre. Y en la ronda de cierre nos damos retroalimentación de los temas que se tocaron, de la facilitación y también retroalimentación propia. ¿Cómo fue mi participación? Estuve muy mal, estaba muy molesto, disculpen, o no pude seguir con el ritmo. Esa es una manera de darnos retroalimentación para seguir mejorando. Con revisiones de acuerdos también, como les decía, hay que poner siempre un término para poder revisar. Se llevó a cabo esa política, se estableció ese acuerdo. ¿Cómo vamos? ¿Nos está sirviendo o ya no nos sirve? Dijimos que en un año revisamos. ¿Sigue siendo importante esta política, este acuerdo? ¿Lo eliminamos o lo modificamos? Y también cada uno de los roles siempre tiene una evaluación de desempeño, ¿sí? Esos son básicamente, así en una manera muy rápida, los principios de la sociocracia. De nuevo, la función es que sea una organización eficiente, incluyente. Yo creo que quiere mi palo. Te doy mi palo. Ya no lo necesito. Eficiente, incluyente y transparente. Y hay 3 principios de la sociocracia que nos ayudan a ese propósito, que son estructuras circulares con doble enlace, toma de decisiones por consentimiento y mejora constante. ¿Cuáles son los retos de la sociocracia? Cuando decidimos autogestionarnos, vamos a tener que olvidar muchos patrones que tenemos de cómo tomamos decisiones, de cómo nos comunicamos, de cómo manejamos el poder, de cómo soltamos responsabilidad, ¿sí? Nosotros abogamos mucho por una herramienta aliada que es la comunicación no violenta. No es parte, digamos, clásica, no es parte de la sociocracia clásica, pero es una aliada para nosotros. Tengo que hacerme consciente de mi propio poder. Tengo que aprender a responsabilizarme de mi voz, porque nadie está tomando decisiones por mí. En la toma de decisiones por consentimiento, es consciente o objeto. No hay de, ay, no, yo no voto, o no, yo mejor me quedo callado. Conscientes, objetas. Nos hacemos responsables de nuestra voz, de mi compromiso y de mis necesidades. ¿Qué necesito yo para funcionar en este círculo, para funcionar en mi rol? A mí seguido me recuerdan mis compañeros con firmemente, pero también muy amorosamente, Suheil, ¿qué necesitas? Dinos qué necesitas. Es parte de hacernos responsables. ¿Qué necesitamos? La sociocracia requiere o asume que las personas podemos tomar decisiones y eso implica que tenemos que tener confianza. En muchos círculos y en muchos contextos no hay confianza. A veces hay que tener un proceso largo de ir desarrollando la confianza para poder distribuir el poder. Es muy común cuando damos consultoría a grupos que se quieren autogestionar, que todos en este círculo mayor, o sea, todos los de la organización son parte del círculo mayor porque se están autogestionando, pero todos quieren tomar todas las decisiones. Y es común, es parte del proceso de ir soltando ese poder, ir confiando que yo no tengo que hacerme responsable de todas las decisiones, voy soltando para que otros círculos tomen esas decisiones. Voy soltando para que otros círculos tomen estas decisiones. Y poco a poco ya no son todos los miembros los que están tomando decisiones, pero es un proceso muy difícil, de un poquito de dolor, ir soltando ese poder. Y también al principio, bueno, de hecho, durante todo su recorrido, ¿no? Hay que tener un balance entre ser eficiente y ser incluyente. A veces cuando se está comenzando un grupo, es mejor pasar un poquito más tiempo siendo incluyentes, escuchando todas las voces, aunque no estemos siendo tan eficientes en la toma de decisiones, pero estamos construyendo confianza. Y hay momentos que vamos a requerir avanzar más rápido. Sí, o sea, como que sí somos incluyentes, pero no pasamos meses tratando de escuchar todas las voces. Entonces hay que buscar ese balance, porque si nos vamos muy a un lado, nos volvemos un poquito más autócratas, ¿no? Si nos vamos al otro extremo, no somos eficientes. Y los quiero dejar ya con 3 recomendaciones que pueden implementar en sus organizaciones, en sus círculos, en cualquier grupo donde ustedes se organicen y tengan que tomar decisiones. Uno es un proceso que es facilísimo de implementar y son las rondas. Cuando hablamos de estar sentados en círculo, hablamos de tomar turnos para hablar. Es tan sencillo, pero hay tanto poder cuando no lo hacemos, porque siempre es la voz más poderosa, la que habla más, la que habla más fuerte. Siempre hay unos que no hablamos. Entonces, cuando no hacemos rondas, hay personas que van a estar siempre como preocupados de en qué momento salto, ¿no? Para dar mi opinión, para hablar. Y es tan fácil simplemente decir, ¿saben qué? Quiero tener la capacidad de escucharnos a todos. ¿Por qué no hacemos una ronda? Y así todos tenemos la garantía de que nos va a tocar un turno para hablar. No significa que tengamos que hablar, tal vez no tenemos nada que aportar. Tal vez lo que yo tenía que aportar ya lo aportaron otros compañeros. No tengo que repetir. También eso es parte de ser eficiente. Si ya se dijo, no lo tengo que repetir. Úsenlo, es súper eficaz. La otra es este lema que ya les repetí varias veces, ¿sí? Siempre que vayan a tomar una decisión y que estén dándole muchas vueltas, es la mejor decisión, recuerden, es lo suficientemente seguro para implementarlo y lo suficientemente bueno por ahora. No busquen la perfección. Es suficientemente seguro, es suficientemente bueno. Experimenten, que es lo que nos decían también los compañeros de la sesión anterior. Experimentar, evaluar, así somos más eficientes. Siempre poner un término, ¿sí? Para poder evaluar. Y por último, todos sus procesos, la sociocracia, todos estos procesos, como les digo, son con el fin de ser eficientes, incluyentes y transparentes. Entonces, ustedes pregúntense, cuando estén tomando decisiones, cuando en los procesos de sus organizaciones, de sus grupos, ¿esto nos hace incluyentes? ¿Esto nos hace eficientes? ¿Esto nos hace transparentes? Si les funciona, perfecto. Los procesos y las herramientas de la sociocracia funcionan para ese propósito, pero si ustedes tienen otras herramientas que funcionan para el mismo propósito, sigan usándolas. Y si no, si ven que no están siendo incluyentes, no están siendo eficientes y no hay transparencia, cámbienlas. Y pues para finalizar, porque creo que el tema de hoy era crear comunidades resilientes y libres, recuerden que las organizaciones son sistemas vivos. Entonces, aprendan de los organismos vivos y repliquen esos mismos procesos en sus organizaciones. ¿Sí? Eso es todo. Derek, no sé si tenemos, I don't know if we have time for questions or we're done. Okay. Tenemos 6 minutos. Si alguien quiere hacer alguna pregunta o una contribución.
Sí. ¿Preguntas? ¿Dudas? Gracias, Ugel. Mucho aplauso.
Gracias.
Hola, Suheil, muchas gracias por tu charla. Me gustaría saber si puedes compartirnos algunos ejemplos concretos que has acompañado, tal vez a una escala pequeña y luego tal vez otro mediana o grande, que has acompañado en consultoría o que has sido parte, para tener más claridad de esto.
Sí, la sociocracia se puede aplicar en muchos contextos. Principalmente el sector que está adaptando más la sociocracia son las comunidades intencionales. Están pasando de consenso a consentimiento y la sociocracia les ha funcionado muy bien. Nosotros en Sociocracy for All acompañamos a muchas comunidades intencionales, como les decía, incluyendo la comunidad que Derek y ellos están formando. Yo he acompañado también a grupos de padres que hacen homeschooling, por ejemplo, ¿sí? que se quieren autogestionar. He acompañado también a grupos de salud mental que ofrecen servicios para personas que no tienen una red de apoyo. Hemos acompañado incluso a empresas, cooperativas, de todo tipo, pero de nuevo, las comunidades intencionales que se están formando, como las que ya están formadas, usan la sociocracia. Gracias.
Okay. ¿Otra pregunta?
Gracias, buenas tardes.
Buenas
Gracias
tardes.
por tu charla, muy interesante.
Qué bueno.
Mira, quería yo preguntarte si esto, bueno, no sabía que se llamaba sociocracia, es muy similar o más bien creo que tenemos mucho que aprender de los pueblos originarios,
Sí.
porque justamente pues se manejan por medio de asambleas comunitarias. Entonces, todo lo que dijiste sí es muy similar, nada más que un poquito más técnico y está muy bien para aquellos que no estamos acostumbrados y más bien que el gobierno nos dice lo que hay que hacer. Yo te quería preguntar, ¿cuáles serían las principales como diferencias o más bien qué podríamos rescatar? Bueno, yo los invitaría a que alguna vez en la vida tengamos una oportunidad de estar o participar o conocer un poco más sobre comunidades originarias, pero digamos, ¿qué podría uno rescatar de esto? O sea, ¿qué experiencias tú retomas, digamos, de manera práctica de las comunidades ancestrales que existen y tradicionales en México o en cualquier parte del mundo? Gracias.
Claro. En Michoacán tenemos, o sea, un ejemplo bellísimo de los pueblos como Cherán, que yo no tengo autoridad para hablar de su proceso. Incluso si el proceso que ellos han seguido rebasa los límites de mi comprensión, porque lo han llevado a niveles ya federales para que su autogestión sea reconocida, ¿sí? Nosotros aplicamos más o menos la sociocracia en niveles más de organizaciones, pero no hay tanto que se use ahorita a nivel estado, o sea, a nivel nacional, en áreas políticas. Pero ¿qué se rescata? Sí, la sociocracia es un modelo que se inventó o que lo inventó un holandés con principios de la escucha activa, que es lo mismo que usan los pueblos originarios de todo el mundo, ¿sí? La asamblea, el escucharnos, el círculo, como decía, como la geometría del diálogo. Pero no hay un encuentro entre estas formas de gobernanza que sí son muy parecidas y las formas que usan los pueblos originarios. A mí me encantaría aprender más de estos procesos, que son procesos reales y tan vivos y de tanta lucha, que tengo mucho respeto por el trabajo que hacen, pero yo no tengo la autoridad para hablar de ese trabajo. Me encantaría que hubieran aquí personas presentes que pudieran hablar de eso. Gracias por tu pregunta. Creo que ya terminamos. Pues muchas gracias. Y si tienen cualquier otra pregunta, me pueden encontrar por aquí.
Okay, muchísimas gracias, Suhail. Give another round of applause to Suhail. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No, truly, these structures are very, very important. And I see how they're working already in our community. And so I really encourage you to give them a try and to start putting them into practice. So I want to remind all of you and invite all of you to this beautiful cacao ceremony and prayer and music temple that we're going to be having here in this room. It starts at 7 p.m. So be sure to show up here at 7. And yeah, it's actually going to be a little different than the previous cacao ceremonies that we have held here. And nonetheless, it's going to be absolutely pure of heart and incredible and anchored. And you're going to feel so grounded, so loved, so supported, and in so much joy and so much harmony. So I I very much invite you to join us and do not miss that, as well as when Miss Laney finishes up. Make sure that you stick around because we're going to be doing our closing and it's going to be really beautiful and we want you to be a part of it. So yes, so I have the honor to introduce Miss Laney Liberty and I am really grateful for her. I've just been telling her just a moment ago that I love her. She's somebody who just brings so much life and joy into our community and is a part of the community. And I think with all of her love and her support, integrating the families into the community, I think that is one of the biggest reasons why the activation this one has been the best one that it has been because everybody, yes, Lainey. Yes, because we talk about all the generations, the future generations and the ancestors and the past. It's like we got to integrate, we got to have space, we got to make room for all the generations to be together. And that's community, right? And so Ms. Laney was sharing with me that this is more of a workshop around fear. And I am so excited for this. I am going to be here to participate, and I hope that you fully participate and show up for this one. Anything that Ms. Laney does is going to be very powerful, profound, and deep, and full of love. So help me welcome Ms. Laney Liberty. Thank you.
Hey. Hi, everybody. Can you believe the last speaker, the last talk on the last day? It's a lot, right? Oh my God. So I want to say thank you to everybody. It's unbelievable how quickly this week passed. And is everybody feeling energized? Yes? Inspired? Yeah? Fantastic. So it's an honor to be here. As you know, I'm so grateful. And even though this is a smaller crowd, exactly the right people are here in this room right now. And for those of you watching at home, we're going to talk a little bit, but we're going to be doing stuff because you know what? We've had some great presentations. But what I like to say is until we embody all the stuff that we've been doing, until we bring it into our own experience, it's just information in and sometimes information out. And we want to make sure that we hold on to everything that we've learned and everything that we've considered and everything that we experienced here this week. And those of you with children at the event, did your kids have a good time? Yeah, it was such an honor to spend the week playing. It was such an honor to spend the week creating. And even some of you adults came and played and created with us. And I'm so grateful. And we're looking forward to expanding the Freedom family, not just to adults, not just to kids, but I want grandparents to be a part of this and future parents to be a part of this and aunts and uncles to know that you have a place in this family. So it's really important. So come play. We'll be back next year. And before I start, I do want to give a very heartfelt thanks to Amy, who helped with the Freedoms family. And I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you, darling. I have a big question for you. And can you guys bring up the slideshow? Yeah. So this is the name of my talk or my workshop or this presentation. But my question for you right now really is, how are you feeling? Yeah? Fine? Awesome. How are you feeling? Good. Thoughtful. I love that. Okay. Yes. Inspired. Yay, we did it. So I work as a counselor and a coach for teens and parents. And I ask this question every time I start to work with somebody. How are you feeling today? What do you think the number one answer is? Yeah, that's it. Can you bring up the next slide, please? Oh, yeah, we already asked that. Next slide. So fine is the number one answer. Why? Because in Western culture, we have cultural conditioning, and it really serves to pacify, suppress, perform, and hide. And what do? We make ourselves small. Yeah, and that is a problem. So if you grew up in a culture where the common answer and your condition to give the one word response, I'm feeling fine, that disempowers us, right? So we're going to do a little bit of work, and we are absolutely slide. We're going to interrupt this pattern. You guys ready? You guys want to interrupt this pattern? I do too. So everybody, I'm going to invite you to grab a partner and grab a partner with somebody you do not know. So this is an invitation to pair up with somebody new, to share some time with somebody new. And this is really our last sort of networking, interaction, connection. Grab a partner with somebody and partner up. And guys, we're kind of slow on, pressed with a little bit of time because of the delays. So move to it. Don't think about it too much. Everybody, does everybody have a partner? Partner up, guys.
You in the back, you must partner up. Yes, you.
Yes. What? I haven't told you anything besides grab a partner. All right? Once you have your partner, I would invite you guys to stand up. Stand up, everybody, and turn face to face. Face to face. And in order to do this exercise, there are going to be times where you look away, but I want you to first feel comfortable with direct eye contact. This is how we connect to one another. And we do this, if we can learn to do this with strangers, if we can learn to do this in our families, if we can learn to do this with our kids, with people that we work with, eye contact is so incredibly important. And as you're looking at your partner, together, let's harmonize and take a deep breath together. So we're going to maintain eye contact. We're going to inhale together while we're looking at each other. And we're going to exhale. And we're going to drop into our bodies. We're going to feel the inhale. And we're going to feel the exhale. And I want you to notice, as you're standing there looking at your partner, how you're feeling. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to just notice. And I also want you to feel that you're in a space of safety and that each one of us, by looking at one another, there is an implied vulnerability because we may not know the person. But each person is here and it's safe. And I want you to notice something physical. Who's taller? So the taller person is going to be starting this exercise. And I'm going to bring up, can you bring up the next slide, please? So I wrote a book a couple years ago called Seen, Heard, and Understood, Parenting and Partnering with Teens for Greater Mental Health. And I talk a lot about emotional intelligence. And one of the ways that we use emotional intelligence is by naming the emotion. And on the screen, if you need to look at the screen, there's an emotions wheel. And I use this for children of all ages. Sometimes I simplify it. But there are main areas of emotion and it branches out. But this will help us to give words to the things that we're feeling. Okay, if you need to look at the emotions wheel, you're invited to look at the emotions wheel. But I do invite you to go back to the center with one another, and we're going to start the exercise. So the tallest person is going to finish this sentence that I'm going to give you in a second. And the sentence, the part that needs to be finished, will be an emotion that needs to be put into completing this sentence. I'm going to give you the exercise. And for those of you that have read my book, this exercise is actually in my book, but it's okay. So you're going to complete the sentence. And if you are the shorter person or if you are the person listening, you're going to receive it. You're going to listen with your eyes. Does that make sense? You're going to listen with your eyes. Amy, do you have a partner? Oh, okay. You can. Yes. Yes. So I'm going to give you a sentence, and the tallest person first is going to repeat the sentence, and I'm going to say the sentence with the word blank. You are going to put the emotion into where I say blank, but the tallest person is going to say this sentence with the inserted emotion in it while looking at your partner. The person who is receiving will then just listen with their ears and their eyes. Listen with their eyes, listen with your heart, listen with your body, but listen with your eyes. Don't speak. Then, once you've received it, you will then reverse. And once the two of you have said the sentence, I'll give you a new sentence. We have 5 sentences that we're going to that we're going to share together. So maintain your eye contact. Tallest person is going to say the words, my body feels, and blank. And then when you're done, both parties, both people in the couple are going to share, my body feels, my body feels. Ready for the second sentence? Okay, tallest person is going to start again. My heart feels blank. My heart feels blank. Always emotions. We are not looking for adjectives or nouns or verbs. We're looking for emotions. Okay, yeah, good. Love that. My heart feels. And make sure you maintain eye contact when you're telling your partner. Okay, yeah. Just the taller person. It's just to see who goes first. That's all. Back and forth, back and forth. Now, guys, the next one that I'm going to give you is a new statement. And I really want you to drop into your body, because what I'm asking you to define as an emotional state may confuse you. Okay? But try and use the emotions wheel should you need it. My mind is now feeling. My mind is now, that's what didn't I just say this is going to confuse you? My mind is now feeling exhausted, tired, busy. My mind is now feeling and both partners share. We ready to move on? There's two more. That's a hard one. There's two more. Okay, maintain your eye contact again. Connect with your partner. And the tallest person is going to say, my soul is now feeling. My soul is now feeling. My soul is now feeling. Got it? And you guys ready for the last one? We're going to reset. What? Oh, okay. Yeah. And you guys that just joined in the back, if you want to grab a partner and do this, you're welcome to. We started off with my body is now feeling, my heart is now feeling, my mind is now feeling. We just did my soul is now feeling. And we're sharing the feelings by using the emotions wheel. And the very last one is I am now feeling. Go ahead. I am now feeling. All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap that up. Everybody had a chance to share how they were feeling? All right, grab a seat. Well, first, hug your partner and grab a seat afterwards. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Was that difficult for you guys? Was that difficult? to put an emotion? Yeah. Yes, it was difficult. Yes, it was. Raise your hand if that was difficult. Was that difficult? Okay. Yeah, we got that. Was it simple for some of you? Yeah. Okay. We all have different relationships to our inner worlds. Emotional intelligence is at the foundation. It's something that can be taught to children. And as children grow, hi, bud. And as children grow up, having a language around naming the emotion helps us to really connect with our inner worlds. Okay. And the very last one where I said, I am now feeling, is there's a key in that statement. The key is I am now feeling, instead of I am the emotion. And so we're creating a little bit of space. We're not identifying with the state. We are recognizing that this state is an emotional state, which is part of us. Yeah, but we're going to get to the next slide. I'm going to tell you what it is. So from my book, I write about the role of emotions. So creating language around emotions is really important, right? Disidentifying disempowers the emotion to be the overwhelming state of who we are. So if I say to you, I'm angry, like, how do you get in the middle of that? How do you? You're dealing with anger. But if I say to you, I'm feeling angry, like there is a, not just subtle, but there's a big difference in communication around that. And I wrote about this in my book. I'm going to read to you the 7 roles of emotions. And if nobody ever told you this before, you're welcome. It's great to know, but I'm sure you all know this. The 7 role of emotions are: number 1, emotions are natural. Every human feels emotions. They are a biological function of the brain and an essential part of being human. Even when they're uncomfortable, emotions arise from within us and serve a purpose. Number 2, this one's really important. Emotions are temporary. No emotional state is permanent. Emotions move through us over time, arriving and leaving on their own. Because they are transient, they don't need to be suppressed or controlled. You guys heard that, right? Huge. Number 3, emotions are valid. Allowing emotions to exist without resistance changes our relationship to them. They are not right. They are not wrong. They simply are. If you're feeling something, guess what? It's real. And it doesn't, and arguing with that reality only creates more suffering. Number 4, emotions provide information. Emotional responses reveal something about our inner world, our values, our beliefs, unmet needs, and unresolved grief. They arise for a reason, and when we offer insight, they offer insight when we're willing to listen. Number 5, emotions are neither good nor bad, which is very similar to being valid. While we're conditioned to judge what we feel, emotions themselves carry no moral value. They are natural, temporary, and informative. When we release judgment, discomfort can become curiosity instead of something to avoid. Number 6, emotions provide instruction. Emotions often signal that something needs attention, change, or action. They guide us towards growth, alignment, or creation. when we're willing to respond consciously. And probably the foundation of my talk today are emotions are not facts. And we're going to get into why this is so important to understand. Feeling something does not make it true, okay? Pain does not equal unworthiness, and fear does not necessarily mean danger. Emotions can charge thoughts and beliefs, but remember, they're temporary experiences and not proof of reality. All right. So, guys, why do you think this is important to know? Because you guys already remember the name of my talk and what this topic is. What do you think the most kind of charged and overused? I'm just going to get to it. You guys know that we're talking about fear, right? You know that, right? Let's just go there. I wrote this, and I think it's important. It's important to understand the nature of emotions, because when we don't, we mistake them for something they're not. We confuse feelings with facts, temporary states with permanent truths, and internal signals with external threats. This misunderstanding causes us either to overreact, shut down, and hand our power over to narratives, internal or external, that don't actually serve us. When we understand emotions, we stop fighting ourselves and begin partnering with what's happening inside of us. Yeah. So, guys, let's talk about fear. This emotion and emotional state has been used through eons to herd people into states of control. Okay. And I bet you can all recognize what's happening in the world right now. Historically, fear is used to shame people, to manipulate our choices, to create dependency, maintain hierarchy, and control behavior. Can you guys think of ways right now the system outside of us are giving us messages that are meant to do these things? Can you think of any messages right now? Any? Okay, yes. And what are some of the messages? What do they say? Divide and conquer, or during the pandemic, stay in your home, right? Scarcity. Yeah. Be worth, yes, you're not worth anything. Which means scarcity, right? Yes. All of this. Is this meant to empower us? So if we cultivate a relationship with fear, with the 7 points of the purpose of emotions, we can disarm their messaging. We can disarm it. One of the things that I want to talk to you guys about before we're going to actually do another sort of workshop-y thing is when fear is weaponized, we become reactive instead of reflective. Can you guys think of a time in your life where you were reactive instead of reflective? And this is where emotional intelligence becomes a radical act of liberation. Who here wants to be free? Woo! Freedom! All right. So if the system is using fear as a tool for control, when they try to convince us that we're in danger, even though we are safe in the moment, our nervous system shifts into survival mode, and it shuts down curiosity, nuance, and higher reasoning. This is when you guys have heard you go into fight, flight, or freeze. Okay, this is designed for danger, and this is designed for immediate danger, and it generally corresponds with a physical danger, which is why our brains are wired this way. But over time, we've been manipulated to use these survival responses as a reaction to advertising, as a reaction to news, as a reaction to the way that we frame the world. And these messages are coming from outside of us. And I believe there was a mention the first day of Bernays. Somebody was talking about Bernays advertising. Okay. They learned how to manipulate the human brain to put us into these actual survival modes when we're not actually in that fear mode. And I'll tell you, in my practice, when I work with teens primarily, a lot of them are stuck in this fight, flight, or freeze. And I see a lot of anxiety coming from that. And it's all about the messaging that is coming to us through living in a system that we didn't necessarily opt into. We were sort of just forced into, right? By the way, a fearful population is easier to herd than an emotionally grounded population, right? So when our perception is narrowed, hands-on decision making is we no longer have access to that. So stepping into our power and recognizing that we are being manipulated. And if you go back to the last slide for just a second, there's something I want to touch on. The second item, shame. Shame is heavy. Shame is heavy, especially around fear. When we fear something and we intellectually, from our conscious mind, know that we should not be afraid of it, but we feel fear in our body is not in coherence. Our mind and our body, our heart, our stomach, our nervous system is not in coherence. And if we know that we're not in coherence, I sometimes go into shame. And shame is a powerful emotion that keeps us small and keeps us hidden and keeps our internal worlds in chaos, which makes us more easy to manipulate. So, who wants to break that pattern? All right, so next slide. All right, let's do something about that. Everybody, we're going to, from the next 3 rows, we're going to push these chairs out of the way and we're going to form a big circle. Yeah, we're doing an exercise with everybody that's in the room. Come on. Come on, guys. Everybody, we're going to create a big, 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 big circle. All right? We got to do this quickly because we don't have to make the chairs pretty. We just need the space, guys. Nope, we're not. We're going to stand. We're going to create a circle with all of our bodies together. Let's get them out of here. No, we don't need the chairs. We're going to, everybody come up here and let's form a giant circle. Everybody, come on. Hi, sweetie. Well, let's see. Do we need more space? Come on, everybody. We're going to do a circle and we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder. Come on. Oval. That's okay. Make space. We're going to get rid of some of these chairs. All right. Shoulder to shoulder. Okay. I'm going to step in just for a second. So some of you have used this activity before in different dynamics. I've seen it used all different ways, but we're going to turn this into a fear circle. But before we do that, I want to say something first. There is a lot of spiritual bypassing when people say, don't look at fear. Don't look at fear because whatever you focus on, you're going to get more of. But I talked about the state of emotions. We should not be afraid of our fears. We need to look at our fears, own them, transmute them into just part of the human experience. Because once we push them down, when I said that we don't have the coherence of our mind, our heart, our nervous system, we're controllable. If we are feeling fear, there is no shame to feel fear. If we are afraid of something, let's own it. Okay? So this invitation is to state your fear. Now, the way this is going to work, only those that wish to participate. If you're on the outside, you're holding space for this energy, okay? And it's going to work in a way. So if I was standing here and I'm going first, I'm going to take a giant step inside and I'm going to take the mic. I'm going to be here facilitating with the mic. I'm going to say, and I'm going to actually share with you right now one of my very strong fears. So I fear for the youth that they are programmed or susceptible to programming without having the tools to combat this, the systemic manipulation. I can't even say the word. If you agree with me, step in and create an inner circle with me. So giant step in. If you agree with me. If you don't agree with me, hold space on the outside. Giant inner circle is shoulder to shoulder. So you're not inner circle. Come. If you agree with me, shoulder to shoulder, you guys match me. Shoulder to shoulder. And if we're in the inner circle, we need to, before we step back, make eye contact with every single person in the inner circle. And the outer circle, you're there to hold space. Now, this inner circle, did everybody step in? I love that. But we have an outer circle. Beautiful. Okay. You understand what we're doing. Everybody make eye contact. And once you've made eye contact, step back out to the outer circle, okay? Come on. And this is popcorn. So you will step in if you're inspired to share the fear. Now, the way that we transmute our fear and shame is by speaking it. Okay, we're not going to hold this inside anymore. And you're safe. If you have a fear, step in.
Uncertainty.
The language that I'm inviting you to use is, I fear uncertainty. I am afraid of uncertainty. So I'm sorry I didn't say that. So go ahead.
I fear uncertainty.
Yes. And if you only halfway feel it, you can put in 1 foot. Okay? But if you come, stand. Let's stand with all the people that have the same fear and shoulder to shoulder. If you are standing with this gentleman in the fear of uncertainty, let's touch shoulders. Let's get close, guys. Let's make sure.
Popular fear.
It is a popular fear. Shoulder to shoulder. We got to make this. And now let's make eye contact and look at all the people holding space for us. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, I'll have to admit, I'm kind of scared of saying this out loud, and it's quite a basic one. But my biggest fear is being alone.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I fear being unable to travel anywhere. I fear being unable to travel anywhere. Anywhere. Travel. Freely. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias. Yo tengo miedo a que mis hijas elijan sufrir en lugar de amar. Elijan el dolor en lugar del amor. Es lo que más miedo me da, que ellas no quieran despertar.
Well, her fear is that her daughters or sons choose pain instead of love or suffering. Uh-huh. Yeah, and her children don't want to wake up. That's her fear.
We'll make space, and thank you for holding space for us on the outer circle. Thank you. Thank you. Gracias.
I fear poverty, not having enough money.
Thank you. Inside.
I'm afraid of not being good enough and letting people down. And letting people down.
He feels afraid of not being good enough and letting people down. Thank you. Sure. You have to come in.
I'm just kidding. But the fear is not being good enough. You said for others, but for yourself, that's a fear.
Just not being good enough for himself.
Gracias. Thank you.
I fear old age and losing my autonomy and not having anybody to take care of me.
Thank you.
I fear that basically the whole world has gone insane and are so set in their beliefs and so divided that they think the people that don't believe like them are evil and bad. And I fear the great division from everybody being so hard and core in their beliefs.
Thank you.
I fear slipping into old personal habits and behaviors and ending up being abandoned by people I love.
And broke. He said that he fears slipping into old behaviors and habits and not being loved by the ones he loves, and being broke, abandoned. Oh, he said broke. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I finally thought of something I'm afraid of. It's actually talking in front of lots of people.
Talking in front of us.
That's a good practice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Madison.
I'm afraid that with all the policies and the world being so crazy, that maybe I'm not going to be able to see my children again with all the policies about borders.
So she's afraid with all the new policies. No, stay. The new policies that she's going to be separated from her family and not able to see her children or extended family. Thank you. Thank you. you have one?
Oh.
Gotta come in the set.
I fear saying something stupid in front of a lot of people and being ridiculed. I fear saying something stupid in front of a lot of people and being ridiculed.
Thank you. Thank you. Ready, next? Come.
I fear I fear not finding a loving relationship with someone who is awake.
He fears not finding a loving relationship with somebody who is awake. A lot of us single people feel that. Come on, singles.
Similar minded.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Amy.
I fear dying with the music still in my heart and being unrealized.
She fears dying with the music still in her heart, but not being realized. So, not living her passion or her purpose. Yeah. Thank you. We have time for two more. Come. Let's hear from the youth. War. Yeah. He's afraid of war. Come in the circle. Thank you. Thank you.
I got the best one of all. I'm a Catholic, so I fear dying and going to hell. Dying and going to hell without out of God's grace. That's a bad one for me.
Dying and going to hell. We're holding space for you. Wait, there's more. So, yeah. Eye contact, guys, in the inner circle. Thank you. All right, guys. And we're going to close the circle here. And I I honor all of your vulnerabilities in going to a space where you can express yourself, share, and I'd like for you to hug everybody that's right around you and say these words. You are not alone in your fears. You are not alone in your fears. You are not alone in your fears. You are not alone. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to invite you guys, I just have a few more words to say. I'm going to invite you guys to find a seat. And I just have just a few more words to say. When we transmute our fear into power, when we bring fear into the light, when we name it, when we feel it, when we allow ourselves to be witnessed, something profound happens. Fear loses its grip. Fear thrives in secrecy, imagination, and isolation. But when we feel it in community, when we stay present with the sensations instead of the stories, the nervous system recalibrates. We move from perceived danger into embodied safety. And from that place, fear transforms from something that controls us into something that informs us. It becomes a messenger instead of the master. This is how fear loses its power over our choices. We reclaim sovereignty by trusting our inner signals instead of outsourcing our safety to governments, systems, or cultural expectations. And my friends, this is our work. When we understand our emotions, fear included, we become harder to manipulate, easier to connect with, and more capable of choosing alliance over compliance. Not being afraid of our fear, but transmuting it into the courage to know our own strength. That's what a reset truly is. Not becoming fearless, but becoming free. Thank you.
Yeah, keep it going for Lainey, everybody.
Thank you. One last thing. Next slide, last slide. If you guys, I have a website address up there, Transformative Mentoring for Teens /fear. If you want to download 10 exercises to help regulate your nervous system, that sort of thing. It's for you. It's my gift to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lainey. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, make some more noise for Lainey. I want to invite everybody who's outside, come inside.
Yes, come on through.
You can still get closer if you guys want to stand, even though there's no chairs. This is the end. We want you guys in here. Come on in. Pack it in here. And I want to just say, we're going to say a few things and we'll wrap up. Again, thank you to everybody who's been tuned in at home over the last 5 days. We really appreciate you. We want to invite you again, if you enjoyed the stream and all the free talks and knowledge you've been getting, to please donate to this movement at thepeoplesreset.org/donate. We have thousands of people tuned in from dozens of countries. If each of you chip in, we will continue to do this and go bigger and bigger every year. And of course, all of your support means the world. If you're a vendor, if you're just speaking, hanging out, come inside the main hall. We're going to close out and we're going to try to also get a group picture if we can make it happen.
That takes organizing. It takes,
Yeah.
You guys know what it takes to organize a bunch of people, which is why we are asking to donate, to please support as much as you can, because honestly, this takes a lot of work. You guys don't see what happens behind the scenes, but it is a lot of communication. And we've been so blessed to be able to have the space and the time and the mentality to be able to do this. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of work emotionally as well. So please make sure that if you can donate $5, $10, $15 to make that happen, and share all of the free talks, share all of that with your friends, your family, and there will be more to come. So you can rest assured that there's more activations to come with all your support.
Absolutely. John Bush, for those who are at home, John Bush just started a little hat passing around for $100. Thank you, John. And then in case you didn't hear it earlier, guys, Miriam's talking about there will be future activations. We are doing this in 2027. We're going to be doing something with Yoshi and Polo in Florida later this year, November. So stay tuned for details on that. But we're also talking about doing the People's Reset again, of course, here in Morelia. It will be the last week of February, the first week of March. Tickets are already on sale right now. Who thinks they're going to come back to the People's Reset? Raise your hand if you want to come back. All right. That's what I'm talking about. We hope you guys at home. So for the next 48 hours, you have the best ticket price for 108 USD available till Wednesday afternoon at the website, thepeoplesreset.org/tickets. If you're at home, thepeoplesreset.org/tickets. Again, 108 USD for the next 2 days. It's the best price you're going to get for the People's Reset 2027. We're so grateful to each of you. Now I want to invite all of our speakers, our performers, everybody who put a hand in this, our volunteers who want to join us on stage. Come on, Alec. Come on, everybody who painted, who volunteered, all of our speakers, all of our performers. Please join us on stage. Come on up here, everybody who helped out, everybody spoke. Just get a big family picture up here. Yes, Caro, Glenn, Casey, Elias. Yes, everybody who was a speaker helping out. Bruce, you were the MC. Get up here, Bruce. Jess, you're a volunteer. Get up here, Jess. All right. Yes, come on, everybody who helped out. Give them a big warm welcome, a nice round of applause. We couldn't do this without everybody here. Come on up, everybody. Tom, get in here. Yoshi, who we missing? We got everybody. Some of the speakers have already gone home. We send them a lot of love. But thank you to everybody who on this stage who helped make this happen. We appreciate you guys.
Thank
We
you
love
to
you so much.
Horacio and the interpreters.
Yes,
as
big round of applause for the
well.
interpreters.
Thank you.
For the-
Gracias.
Thank you guys. For the We Are Not Zombies crew.
To the We Are Not
Yes, Ramiro and the zombies. Yes. To our volunteer, Brooke, for helping out, for Maida for helping, and for all of you for being here with us. We really, really, truly appreciate it. Everybody who gave a workshop, everybody who vended. Again, we hope to see you here in Morelia next March 2027. Tickets available, 108 USD for the next 2 days. Guys at home, we want to see you next year. Make some noise for the people at home watching, tune in. Come here next year. Guys, thank you so much for being here for the People's Reset 2026. We love you. We'll see y'all later.
Our power is in our voice. Our power, it's in our thoughts. Our power is in our actions. Our power, it's already innate in who we are. We are the earth. We are the sky. We are the trees. We are our ancestors. We are the future generations. We are all that is.